They were taken to the hospital in critical condition. The driver reportedly stayed on the scene and is cooperating with the investigation. Forecasters are saying warming temperatures and winds over the weekend could be a problem for firefighters in the state. Winds are expected to start back up this afternoon, although KSL meteorologist Matt Johnson says they won't be too intense.
So I'm going for winds this afternoon, 10 to 15 miles an hour, and we may repeat that as we head into Friday and Saturday.
He says with winds and temperatures into the 90s, firefighters will want to keep an eye out, but next week there may be a chance of rain. Researchers at the University of Utah are working with NASA to help firefighters have better response times and prevent fires. Professor Phil Dennison tells KSL-TV they used data from a NASA plane.
They were able to see a new fire that had cropped up, and they were able to shift resources to fight that fire and get it contained much more rapidly than if the plane hadn't been there.
Some of the products they are working on can map fire fuels and alert firefighters to potential problems. They hope to have these new systems available in 2 to 3 years. Your money at this moment, right now, the Dow's up 296. We're at 43,278. Coming up, we are back in the 90s today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:02. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Barry Manilow. Looks like we made it. The last West Valley City concert. Barry Manilow. See him performing all the hits for one night only. Barry Manilow at Maverick Center, July 14th. Get tickets now at Ticketmaster.com.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
There's nothing like when you get that part from eBay and it just fits. Yeah, the first time. So you can do less of this and get right back to more of this. At eBay, you'll find all the parts you need, guaranteed to fit, at prices you'll love. Sounds good, doesn't it? eBay, things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
The power of we believes in you. It advocates for you. It completes your circle. It makes sure you have the strongest circle possible. And with Intermountain Health in yours, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
Emergency traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here's Heather Kelly.
Well, this is for the delays. We still have northbound I-15. Most of them are centered between 90th South and Sandy up into South Salt Lake from an earlier trailer that got disconnected from whatever was towing it. It had been blocking 3 right lanes of the freeway. It's now over on the right shoulder, but you have a lot of emergency vehicles on the scene, just keeping things slow. But now we're seeing slowdowns southbound I-15 going from Midvale into Sandy. Haven't heard of a crash in the area. There may be debris, but something is bringing traffic almost to a halt in that southbound direction as well. From system install to fast fixes to deliver award-winning heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical, call Whipple Service Champions for the win today. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today we'll have sunshine with a high of 94, 95 tomorrow. Right now, 75 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the Drug Facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the Drug Facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/Drug Facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
If you're struggling with your mortgage, there's a free government program that offers expert one-on-one advice about your mortgage options. Call 1-888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So imagine this, Holly. You're tooling along as one of Utah's best lawyers. You're very popular. You're very popular with the Republicans and the Democrats. You got a great career, family, and you decide to run for political office, and then you get sued every 2 weeks. Welcome to our next guest, Derek Brown, a Utah Attorney General, who's joining us in studio to talk with us a little bit, and he's got some friends with him today. Tell us who you got with you.
Well, first of all, I don't know if it's every 2 weeks. It's probably every other 2 days.
Okay, yeah.
I have
to say this before you introduce your guests or your friends. You asked me when you were thinking about running to be AG if I thought you should do it, and I told you no.
Hey, say as your friend, your life is really good. Don't screw it up.
Basically,
by running for office.
I said you would be great if you ran and won, which you did, but I said don't do it.
I said the exact opposite, didn't I? Derek asked me if he should run, and I said, "Sign me up. I want to be. I'll support you. I'll do anything you want."
Makes me wonder if Greg's really a friend.
Right.
What kind of friend gives that advice?
Didn't know what he was getting into.
Well, it's great to be here, and I have with me my chief deputy, Dan Burton, who's been with the office for many years.
Also a very prestigious
Dan.
Yeah.
And I've got Taylor Bentley as well, who's been in my office and been very involved in the political arena. So
hi, Taylor. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about EPA rulings and also railway rulings and the Supreme Court. But first of all, I would love to know some background on what it's like to be in the chambers, because that sounds totally fascinating.
It was amazing. So just first of all, this is for a case involving the state of Utah and Oklahoma, and it had to do with the Clean Air Act. And right. I mean, we're very interested in making sure we have clean air, but how we get there has had a little bit of controversy. And so the first thing to know is that we actually do work with other states. I mean, we have our Solicitor General, a guy named Stan Purser, who I appointed to be our Solicitor General, was the one there as part of the legal team. But Dan and I were actually in the chambers when it was argued, and it was a fascinating experience because it's almost like, I mean, what would you say, Dan? Sort of a time warp, right? They go back.
Flashback in time.
Well, yeah, there's no technology allowed. You check in your cell phones before you get there. They're very strict about everyone being there early, on time, no noise.
A dress code, I assume.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's very, very formal. And yet what's interesting to me is, in spite of that formality, the court was very relaxed in one setting that I didn't anticipate. Traditionally, you get 30 minutes for each side to argue your case. And I think historically that's always been the precedent. You get 30 minutes, and in this, which means you get basically 1 hour per case. In this case, Chief Justice Roberts went almost, what was it, about 2.5 hours, Dan? Wasn't that?
Wow.
For both cases.
And what was interesting is there was the level of collegiality where he made it really clear, yes, our time is done, but I want to make sure that everyone gets their questions answered before we sit down and make a decision. And so he literally, I assumed he was about to end, and then he'd look over and say, Justice Kagan, do you have any other questions? Justice Sotomayor, any questions? Justice Barrett, any questions?
Wow.
And they kept going and going and going. And so it was interesting to watch that clearly, in spite of the political and legal differences they have, they're all really good friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let me ask Dan a question, because you preceded Derek in the office. How was Utah chosen as a named party in that case? Because as I read it, there were something like 26 states that would have had the same cause of action, but Utah and Oklahoma were the two lead parties in that.
I think it's because we led the lawsuits, the two lawsuits that they joined together, and so because of that, they put us at the top of the ticket for those two cases.
So can you just briefly summarize what this is the Clean Air EPA case? Can you just summarize what that does and what it allows Utah to do now?
Well, our goal as a state is to file what we call a state implementation plan pursuant to the Clean Air Act, which basically says here's how we are going to achieve the required standards of air quality here in Utah. And that was done by 25, 26 other states. And what was interesting is the EPA pretty much didn't look at them, didn't seem to care, didn't work with the states, and just by the stroke of a pen said, yeah, we're going to reject, all of them. And so we were challenging that. We said, no, we're serious about clean air. We want you to look at this. And so their response was, well, we want this to be heard in a court in Washington, D.C. And our response is, no, local issues like that should be heard in local courts. And for me, that's very important. I mean, we recently had a case involving someone who had sued me that was really trying to get their case against the state of Utah outside of Utah. They didn't want Utah juries and Utah judges. And of course, as the Attorney General of Utah, I absolutely want Utah juries and Utah judges whenever I can get it. So really, this case was about, where do we decide? Like, is it local courts that get to decide or national courts in D.C.? And what was great is it was an 8-0 unanimous verdict by the court saying Utah's right. These issues should be decided in local Utah courts.
Yeah, and so we've got a little more time. Can you take us out to the basin and talk to us about the lawsuit involving the railway? Because that one was really important, but way under the radar, and a lot of people didn't really learn about it or talk about it. I remember reading it thinking, this is kind of a big deal.
It is a big deal, and what's interesting is a lot of people don't understand. I mean, we could do a whole show on what the Attorney General actually does because most people really have no idea.
Feel free to educate our
Well,
audience,
I'm happy.
too.
I mean, I do represent the state on major issues like this lawsuit involving the EPA, but we fight on, we represent the state as it's sort of like being general counsel for the state as well as many of other issues. But this is an issue that we're very interested in. And it involves NEPA, which is short for the National Environmental Policy Act, which is basically the all-purpose law that Congress passed dealing with environmental laws.
Right.
And so we're trying to build this 80-mile railway to connect the Uinta Basin with the National Railway Corridor.
Right.
And so they've been trying to get this approved for a long time. And the Surface Transportation Board said, they said anybody who has an objection, you let us know. And so thousands and thousands of different documents and information came up, and the STB basically said, okay, we're going to approve this thing. This makes a lot of sense. We've looked at all the different angles. And there was a lawsuit filed basically saying, yeah, but you didn't include a consideration of climate impacts in the Gulf Coast.
Oh, wow.
That, we're talking about an 80-mile railroad. Exactly, from
Yeah.
Vernal to like Price area. They're saying you didn't consider Louisiana, how it would impact them. Really, it was kind of a joke.
Right.
I viewed it as an excuse to deny it. And so this went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, look, they did their job. Utah's right. This should be approved. And no, you don't have to consider climate change impacts in the Gulf Coast on an 80-mile railway in Utah. So again, it was a unanimous verdict for Utah. So Utah's had, the last couple of months, 2 major victories.
So how is that ruling going to impact the, I assume, export of oil and gas from up there? And what's the process? Do you know, as the Attorney General?
Well, we don't get so involved in that aspect, but what it will do is it will facilitate, ironically, clean air, because what we currently do is what is extracted in the basin is shipped to the railway
by truck.
By
right?
trucks, exactly, which are using internal combustion engines and burning gas through these different canyons. And so this will streamline that process and basically improve air quality as well.
Yeah, interesting.
Do you mind, since we have you here, sticking around for another segment? Does Burton give you his permission for the boss to stick around?
Minutes, yeah.
One more, we can do it. Absolutely, we'd love to do it.
We've got you captive, Derek, so we might as well
captive
keep you.
audience in
All right,
studio.
Here we go. We'll be right back.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner. Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to Soda, just amazing.
I started on Soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Breaking news here on KSL News Radio. The Utah Department of Health and Human Services has confirmed 2 additional measles cases in the state. That brings the total to 5 cases. The 2 Utahns that contracted the disease are unvaccinated and linked to the other cases. One of them is a minor and the other is an adult. Of the 2 of the 5 Utahns who have been diagnosed so far, they were hospitalized. It looks like they have since been released. We are still learning more about the situation. Public health investigations are ongoing to help identify any locations where possible exposures may have occurred. Reporting live, Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
Discover the timeless value at Duke's Jewelers, a local treasure since 1948. Whether you're searching for a unique engagement ring or need expert watch repair, Duke's has been serving the community for over 75 years. It's the perfect time to visit and explore the wide selection of custom designs and quality gemstones. The skilled designers at Duke's can bring your dream piece to life, while experienced jewelers handle repairs and modifications in-house. Duke's Jewelers takes pride in value pricing, ensuring you receive the best prices every day. Need an appraisal? The Duke's Jewelers AGS certified gemologist is here to help. Whether it's hand or machine engraving, or redesigning old favorites into something new, get personalized service for every occasion. Visit Duke's Jewelers and experience the difference of locally operated expertise and dedication. Duke's Jewelers in Springfield, Utah.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Jane has 150,000 miles on her truck, and she's proud of that. Jane's secret? AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help her find the right parts. Jane's brother Josh only cares that his car starts and goes, but when it doesn't, he also goes to AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help with free services. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Matthew.
Huh? Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I just need you to listen to me.
I know that a lot of times, Mom, it might not seem like I'm listening to you, but I am. I hear you. And what you say really does matter to me.
I mean, let's be honest. No kid likes rules, but I get why we have them. I hear you, and I know it's because you care.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thanks, Mom, for never giving up and always being my biggest fan.
Thank you for letting me know what you expect, so I can try to meet your expectations.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
The new Inside Sources.
We're back with newly elected Attorney General Derek Brown. That still kind of rings well in my ears, Derek. I need to ask you a question sort of about the bigger picture with the attorneys general. And I say this having run for Attorney General. We had the DAGA, the Democratic Attorney Generals, and the RAGA, and it seemed like they didn't work together, at least during my time running. But you seem to be working with a lot of attorneys general all over the country, and you seem to work with Democrats and Republicans. Is that the sense you're getting right now, or is there because in Congress we have kind of a split, and it seems like in a lot of what's happening in our country we do, but I think in your world, at least you personally have been able to bridge that gap more than we've seen in the past.
Well, and fundamentally, I am. First and foremost, I'm a lawyer.
Right.
I'm a lawyer for the state of Utah, and I know there's a political dynamic to what I do, but we spend a lot of time working with other states, and we have an association of all the AGs in the country called the National Association of Attorneys General. I'm on the executive committee of that organization, and we do work together. Yesterday we worked together on a banking issue. We've worked together on cases involving robocalls or fraud or social media. These are all issues because certainly there are politically charged issues involving the new administration, and I'm aware of that. But there are so many other issues that sort of transcend just partisan dynamics.
Yeah.
And so, and it's given me an opportunity to really get to know AGs of different parties. I've become great friends with the AG in Connecticut, ironically. Do we disagree on a lot of politics? Absolutely. Is there a lot that we agree on? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it's a good opportunity.
We're actually doing a letter with him later this week on the illegal offshore gambling.
Offshore gambling, exactly. Because that's a perfect example of an issue that, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. Fundamentally what the AG does is protect its citizens and protect the most vulnerable in our communities. And so to the extent that we have anything that impacts the vulnerable populations in our state, I'm interested and very aggressive on those issues.
So I have a question for you. So we hear about some of the high-profile cases, they make the news, but what is there a typical day in the life of an AG, or can you at least give us, is there a typical week? Like, what does it look like? What is it that you do in your job?
There's nothing typical, as I have learned. Every day is different. We are responding to and looking. As any attorney will tell you, every day is full of surprises.
Right.
And that's part of practicing law. And being attorney general it's like being general counsel for the state of Utah. And a lot of people, when I was campaigning, I realized most people had no idea really what the attorney general does. They think you're like, some like top cop or top prosecutor or whatever. There is that component. There's definitely a criminal component. We've arrested a lot of people for, say, child porn. We have sting operations, and I have an entire Internet Crimes Against Children task force.
Yeah.
And what they do is disturbing, but has to be done. But that's just a small part. We have almost 300 attorneys in our office and almost 600 people total. Wow. So we also have investigators, and we have folks who help us prepare these cases. And so really in the life of an AG, it is I'm speaking to groups, I'm meeting with lawyers. Today I'm doing a tour of a large company here in Utah. I'm filming some videos. I'm speaking to the Utah Bar this evening, and then we'll have meetings with staff. A lot of times they're just high-level meetings that lawyers have all the time, going through legal issues. What do we want to do? Do we want to, pull the trigger on this case or not? What are the problems? And so it's from a legal standpoint, it's the most fascinating thing I've ever done, because no 2 days are ever similar. But it's also a great opportunity really to identify problems and solve them, because you had mentioned Congress, Greg, and how there's a level of dysfunction. And with all due respect to our members of Congress that I have a lot of respect for, and they're all good friends, Congress isn't really doing anything. Yeah. Occasionally they'll pass a big, huge, beautiful bill and try to throw everything, or not, and throw everything into it. But the reality is, it's very rare that they actually pass a substantive bill solving a problem that matters to Utah. And people may think, well, that's gridlock. That's a negative, terrible thing. Well, I don't know that I agree, because what that means is it creates a vacuum that the states then can step in and fill. And it gives us the opportunity to solve the problems at a state level that Congress isn't solving at a national level. And I think, as someone who believes in federalism, that's actually a good thing.
Let me ask you this. This was when I was at the district attorney's office and working with the attorney general's office. And even now in my practice, people say, well, the AG did this or the DA did that. They don't know the difference. And without going into the weeds, we have, 29 counties in Utah? So we have 29 county attorneys. We have one attorney general. How do you work with the counties? Because you have to overlap with them. You have the ability to do criminal cases in an individual county where you might have a county attorney there as well. I don't know. I mean, Dan, you've worked with a lot of county attorneys, probably as well as anybody I know. I mean, how do you guys decide who does what in an individual case in an individual county?
And just as background, this is Dan Burton, my chief
yeah.
deputy for the office, who effectively oversees the almost 300 attorneys. But this is something you deal with on a daily basis. So give us your overview.
Dealing
here.
with the county attorneys is kind of like a round table, like the Knights of the Round Table. We're, we have the king, and then we have all of his knights. He doesn't oversee them, but he has some authority to work with them, and they will call and ask for resources. They'll call and ask for help. We'll call them and ask them for resources and for help. Most of them have more attorneys than us because they're bigger. If you go to Salt Lake, Weber, or Davis, they just have bigger offices because they deal with more crimes. We deal with more of the bigger, more complex crimes. And if there's something happening in San Juan, they'll call and we'll say, okay, what can we do to work together? And we'll bring our resources, and the AG will help.
In fact, there was recently a homicide in a very rural county in Utah, and they had effectively 2 lawyers in the office. So they call us and say, okay, how do we deal with a homicide? And we've got a great team. I mean, my entire criminal department now is run by a guy named Stuart Young, and I brought him over from the U.S. Attorney's Office, where he spent several decades prosecuting.
Great prosecutor.
He is
one of the best prosecutors.
Stuart is amazing.
I don't know how you got him.
I was really lucky. And he's done a great job of not only mobilizing the office and organizing it, but doing exactly, Greg, what you're talking about, is working with the county attorneys. And the best thing we do as an office is we collaborate and we coordinate. And so we don't up and tell them what to do. We offer our resources and vice versa. So we work together collaboratively with all 29 counties.
Yeah. The other day, just for example, I was up in Weber County, and there were, like Dan said, there were 4 or 5 county attorneys up there. There was one person from your office there. And so your office typically will get involved in case you mentioned one, which was the internet crimes against children. It seems like your office also gets involved and does some of the more fraud cases that are happening around the state. Maybe because they cross county lines, but do the county attorneys typically say, yeah, come on down, or do you ever get pushback saying, hey, we got this? Dan?
We do get pushback, but the legislature has given us specific statutory authority in certain areas, like Medicaid fraud, like insurance fraud, like internet crimes against children. And so in those areas, we will coordinate the work, and we just have specialists, so they call us in those specific areas.
Yeah, and I think, like Derek said, you have specialists. If you're in a small county, and I've practiced all over the state, some of those county attorneys, while they're excellent lawyers and excellent prosecutors, they may not have the resources, where you've got people who can walk in and do a death penalty case, who can walk in and do a complex fraud case, who can walk in and do even complex litigation that's not necessarily criminal. I mean, how do you manage 300 lawyers, Derek?
Well, it's a trick, but they're incredibly good lawyers, and the biggest issue we have is just a function of resources. I mean, it's like these smaller counties. They don't have the resources to do everything they need to do. I mean, I spend a lot of time prosecuting internet crimes against children, and if we quadrupled the number of lawyers on that team, they still would be swamped. There's way more work than we could ever do, and so really, that's probably the hardest thing, is looking at scarce resources and saying, okay, which are the cases that matter most? Which ones are we going to go after? But it's an amazingly professional group of people in the AG's office. And that's, for me, what I have loved learning as I've started, is we've just got great lawyers.
And we've only got, 30 seconds, Derek. Just tell us, you seem like you enjoy the job, but what's been the most surprisingly good thing about it?
That you can make a difference. I mean, unlike Congress that needs 435 votes to do anything in the House, we can actually identify specific problems in the Attorney General's office. And by the end of the day, we've got a plan, and we're moving on solving them. And that's what the AG can do that a lot of elected officials can't. And so it's been a lot of fun, and hopefully we can actually make an impact here in Utah.
Well, thanks for joining us. Will you come back and join us again?
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Honor. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour is breaking news. The Utah Department of Health and Human Services has confirmed 2 additional measles cases in the state, bringing the total to 5 cases. The 2 Utahns contracting the disease are unvaccinated and linked to the other cases. We'll stay on top of that story, of course, for you here at KSL. The CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices is getting pushback as it prepares for the second day of its public meetings. ABC News Medical Unit Coordinating Producer Soni Salzman says some of the sharpest criticism has come from fellow doctors.
The American Academy of Pediatrics, which represents pediatricians in this country, they came out with a really strong statement saying that this whole process has effectively been corrupted and reminding Americans that no matter what happens with these recommendations for these vaccines, the American Academy of Pediatrics is going to continue, as they have for decades, to put out their own evidence-based recommendations.
This is the first meeting since Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. dismissed all 17 members and appointed new ones. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is working on plans to vaccinate poultry against the bird flu. State veterinarian Amanda Price says there are some obstacles to overcome, including some states that may put a ban on meat from animals that have been vaccinated.
There's more to this than just, can we get a vaccine that's effective, but really what impact is this going to have on our interstate trade as well?
Price says the USDA is still making a decision on bird flu vaccinations, and they continue to encourage poultry farmers to keep their flocks away from wild birds. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 274. We're at 43,255. Coming up, we are back in the 90s today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
This is Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. It is time for our annual spring clearance sale at Arctic Spas. Tons of hot tubs, swim spas, all-weather pools, saunas, and cold tubs all on sale at up to $7,500 off. Yes, up to $7,500 off. Just in time for the summer fun to begin. Plus, we have a few models left over from last year, like an Arctic Spa Polaris, a 7-foot by 7-foot with 40 massaging jets, 2 pumps, ozone water purification, UV water purification, multicolored LED lights, and a waterfall, now discounted to $89.95. Swim spas starting out at $19,995. This brings a pool to your backyard all year long, but especially for the family fun this summer. Comfort and convenience is on sale with our automated saltwater system. Or save even more with almost new refurbished Arctic Spas from years past. Start out online at ArcticSpasUtah.com to pick out your favorite spa. Then stop by one of our 3 Arctic Spa stores covering all of Utah: Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. Arctic Spas, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
Hi friends, Dan the Laptop Man here from PC Laptops. In celebration of over 32 years of serving humans in Utah with their computer and tech needs, we've slashed our prices. And these are the new 2025 models. Here's the deal. You can get our new 2025 S1 desktop with a blazing Ryzen 5 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing fast storage on this promotion. We also have our new 2025 SM3 laptop with the Intel i5 processor, 16 gigs, and over a terabyte of storage for $999. You can take one home today for $999. And you also get the peace of mind of our lifetime service warranty. We also have 12 months special financing available, and they start as low as $29 a month. But hurry in, because supplies are limited. Because at PC Laptops, we love you. PCLaptops.com. Take home a blazing fast 2025 model desktop or laptop for $999 at PCLaptops.com.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our client's portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, We're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
We have emergency traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. What's happening, Heather?
Well, we've got a pretty bad crash in Summit County. This is westbound I-80 right at Jeremy Ranch. 2 right lanes of the freeway are blocked right now, only 1 left lane getting through, and it has traffic at a complete standstill all the way back to Kimball Junction. So this is going to take you a lot of extra time to try to get to the summit of Parley's Canyon if you're trying to head into the Salt Lake Valley. If you're northbound I-15, we still have a few slowdowns from Midvale into South Salt Lake from earlier crashes, but that is quickly easing. You've got huge delays trying to get into Weber Canyon on I-84 eastbound over to the rest area, and we still have a semi-truck on its side. This is on the connecting ramp from I-84 eastbound to head east I-80 toward Wyoming at Echo Junction. Common Spirit Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be sunny with a high around 94 degrees. Some light winds moving in this afternoon. Tomorrow, 95 up to 99 by Monday. Right now, sunny and 75 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We have a developing story, and we don't expect in 2025, Holly, that your kids can go to school, or you can go to court, or you can go to some civic event, and you'll be stricken by something as simple as the measles, because we all think that was cured and that it was taken off the books and that it didn't exist. But the Utah Department of Health and Human Services has confirmed 2 additional cases of measles in this state, bringing the total right now to 5. The 2 Utahns contracting the disease are unvaccinated and linked to the other cases. The Utah Department of Health and Human Services is expected to hold a press conference today at 11, and we'll bring you the updates from that as we get them. One of the newly identified individuals, Holly, with measles is a kid, a minor, while the other is an adult. The one person is a Utah County resident. The other is from the Southwest Health District, which must be the St. George, Washington County area. They've since been released, but now we're up to 5 cases of measles in Utah, and we haven't had. It's just not something we even talked about a year or 2 ago.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the cases spreading across the country, and it has come to Utah. One of the things that's concerning is out of the 5 cases right now, 2 of them are pregnant women. And that can be usually okay for the moms, but it can be really, really damaging for the babies that are inside their mama's womb. So that's really concerned. So measles symptoms can appear 7 to 14 days after exposure. You usually have a high fever, which is higher than 102.2. A cough, a runny nose, red eyes, that may be the early stage. And then a rash actually doesn't come until about 4 days after the fever. So we actually have Nicholas Rupp with the Salt Lake County Health Department who says this kind of disease is a lot of work because of how contagious it is.
So measles is infectious 4 days before the rash appears and then 4 days after the rash appears. So we have a total of 9 days we need to cover potentially if someone is out and about in the community while they have measles.
So there's no known cases in Salt Lake County yet, but if you've been exposed or think you have, you should stay away from others and call your healthcare provider. Call first before you go to a clinic or a hospital to prevent other people from exposure.
Yeah, and it's a little hard when you actually get you have 4 days when you don't really know you even have it.
That's right.
So
yeah,
you're
that's right.
contagious. You're contagious to others, but you don't even know you have it yourself.
Well, I think that our listeners are going to recognize our next guest voice because it's Debbie Dujanovic, the former host on KSL News Radio, who had measles
Holly.
as a child. Hi, Debbie.
I did.
Oh, my
Greg.
goodness.
I did contract measles. And first, just let me say, my heart goes out to these 5 individuals who've contracted this. I just call it an evil disease because it leveled me in 7th grade, and I'm happy to share what I went through in hopes that it helps others understand how ravaging this disease can be to a child's body, at least to from my perspective, from what I went through.
Yeah, tell us about that. How you knew you had it, and what your symptoms were.
Well, it was the last week of 7th grade. I think I just turned 12 years old, and my understanding is another child unwittingly, unknowingly brought the disease to school. And I want to make it clear to our listeners that I was vaccinated as a child. I have my vaccine card. It says I was vaccinated. My mom says they vaccinated me. And I'll get back to that in just a moment, because I think there's something that people who were vaccinated in the 1960s should be very aware of when it comes to this disease. But it dropped me. It dropped me like a 500-pound rock.
Wow.
And it came on so swiftly. And, if you boil spaghetti noodles and it's at the end and you're picking them up out of the pan to see if they're, like the perfect limpness, I was like that noodle. And I remember not even being able to move. I couldn't eat anything and keep anything down.
Wow.
And when they say there's a rash, there may be a bit of a misperception if you haven't gone through it. It's not. For me, it wasn't just like a skin rash where I got red dots. Yeah, there was a skin rash. But my understanding of what happened to me is that this rash infiltrated my body. And so to even keep water down, I was constantly throwing up. I laid in a dark room day after day after day with an extremely high fever. I was scared of I mean, there was times when I was praying for God to take me because I didn't see a way out of it. And I was just so young. I just didn't understand what was going on. Yeah. And, I fought sleep because I felt like falling asleep would enhance my chances of dying.
Wow.
Oh my word.
So, but it was so evil and so horrible that I remember as I was coming out of this, and it was days and days and days of just laying in this room and my mom checking on me and at times I think, laying at the bottom of my bed, my little twin bed, just making sure that I was breathing. I remember one morning waking up and I saw that for the first time in a week or two, I saw the sunlight like coming through my dark shades. And I was like, I feel like I'm alive. And so I crawled to the bathroom because at that point my parents weren't in my room. And I picked myself up and I could see my rib cage. I had lost so much weight.
Wow.
And then it went like the symptoms actually were so prolonged. I couldn't go outside without extremely like dark sunglass shade. I called them my grandma sunglasses because my eyes were so sensitive to light, and I would randomly get sick, like to my stomach and throw up for about a year.
Oh, wow.
So for that reason, I feel so badly for these people who've contracted it. But I did want to share, and I know what the out times are on the show, you guys. So I want to make sure I'm not stepping on your commercial break here. But
you're good.
I just went to the CDC website, and so a lot of people say, especially when I post about this on social media, like they question my vaccinations and that kind of thing. But the CDC website states that people vaccinated prior to 1968 with either an inactive, which is considered a killed measles vaccine, or a measles vaccine of an unknown type. So a lot of us don't know what we were vaccinated with because our vaccine cards don't state that. The CDC says they should be revaccinated.
Yeah.
Because the recommendation is to protect those who may have received a killed measles vaccine. That particular vaccine was available from 1963 to 1967, and according to the CDC, was not effective. and it says it right on the website there.
Wow.
So I think there's a lot of people who are vaccinated in the mid 60s who may not know that, and so I think the basic recommendation is to check with your doctor and see if you need to get an updated MMR.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Debbie. We hope you've been enjoying your retirement, and we appreciate you hopping back on to talk to us this morning.
Thanks, you guys. I'll be listening at 11 for that news conference on the measles.
Okay.
And we continue to follow the status of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the migrant wrongfully deported to El Salvador. This week, a U.S. district judge rejected the government's bid to delay his release from jail on the grounds that he might be deported before facing trial. Stay with us.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. We've got a pretty bad crash on I-80. This is westbound right at Jeremy Ranch. So after you leave the Park City area trying to get over the point of the mountain, 2 right lanes of the freeway are closed right now, only 1 left lane getting through, and that has brought traffic to a standstill backed up to Kimball Junction. So you're going to need to allow extra time on your drive there. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPaveUtah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
It's Julie from the Cache Valley Visitors Bureau inviting you to come celebrate summer in Logan. From nonstop festivals to super close outdoor adventures to the most charming historic downtown and great restaurants, it's all right here. Let's just stop for 1 second. I don't know why everyone who lives in Salt Lake thinks it takes 3 hours to get to Logan, but unless you're dragging a handcart, it'll only take you 1 hour and 20 minutes, so just get in your car and get up here. You know we're Utah's heart of the arts. This week, live performances of Matilda the Musical, the professional Olyark Repertory Theater's inspiring musical Bright Star, plus they open Sherlock Holmes, The Final Adventure. Wait, the swashbuckling Broadway hit The Scarlet Pimpernel hits the stage too. Good night! Free concerts every weekday at noon in the Tabernacle and free concerts and movies at the Outdoor Plaza. Mark your calendars for the Cache Valley Cruise-In Classic Car Show 4th of July weekend and a packed schedule of nonstop fun all summer long. ExploreLogan.com. ExploreLogan.com.
Regardless of how old your air conditioner is, there are a few things you can do to help it last as many summers as possible. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and like so many things in our life, it's easy to take our air conditioner for granted. If you keep a clean filter, rinse the outdoor unit off every once in a while, and have it serviced once a summer, you can reduce your risk of unexpected breakdowns. But eventually it will break down, and if someone tells you that your only option is to replace it, don't be afraid to get a second opinion. You could save thousands of dollars repairing it instead of replacing it. Any Hour rarely comes across an air conditioner that just can't be repaired. That doesn't mean you won't choose to replace it anyway, but being told you don't have options, that's not cool. So if you want honest answers and straightforward options, give Any Hour Services a call. And remember, every week this summer, Any Hour Services is giving away an air conditioner to one lucky customer as part of our Coolest Summer Sweepstakes. No purchase is necessary. You can see official rules or schedule your service at anyhour.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Right now at S&S Roofing, get $1,000 off any roof replacement. Plus, you'll get their incredible 50-year worry-free warranty. Dial pound 250 and then say the keyword S&S Roofing for a free bid.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
You might recall, Holly, the story of Abrego Garcia. He was among 230 migrants who were deported to El Salvador's notorious Supervision Treatment Center, known as CCOT. It's supposed to be a really awful prison down in El Salvador. The United States contracted with the Salvadoran government to house some prisoners there, and he was flown there. He had been in the United States for some time. He had requested asylum in the United States. That was denied, but the judge issued what's called a withholding of removal order. In other words, you can't remove him to, of all places, El Salvador, which is where he ended up getting removed to, because he faced gang persecution there and gang violence there. So the judge says, you can deport him, you just can't deport him there. He was then deported there. Everyone went, this case got national attention because he hadn't been through the normal, what we call due process charges. He didn't have a hearing. He was just jumped on a plane. And if you recall, the judge even ordered the plane to turn around at some point, but it didn't. He went to the prison. He has been brought back. That's the good news. The Department of Justice has now charged him with a crime that occurred allegedly, 8 or 9 years ago. He was in a car with a bunch of other people. Some of them may not have been here legally, and he's charged with a human trafficking crime. So they brought him back ostensibly to face charges for that. The reason it got in the news now is because he had a hearing on that case, and the judge there, which is typical, ordered that he be released. Like, this is not the crime of the century. You're here. There were certain conditions the judge imposed, but the judge basically said you're going to be released. Well, out of the frying pan into the fire, ICE is there saying you can release him, but you're releasing him to us, and we're taking him right back into custody. So it happens more than you think, but it just really...
That seems like double jeopardy, man.
Yeah, it's different. I wouldn't say jurisdictions. It's part of the same jurisdiction, but it's different prosecutions. If you can imagine, we had Derek Brown here earlier. If the Attorney General's office had a warrant for somebody, and the district attorneys did, and the DA case, the judge says, "Oh, I'm going to release you," and the AG showed up and said, "Well, we've got this other case. We're just going to hook him up on our case." So that's kind of what happened here. Put the judge in an awkward position.
Yeah. So how often does that happen?
Surprisingly, a lot. Now, this particular example that I'm giving you today, Holly, has not happened much in the past, but it happens a lot now. In fact, we will see, you'll see now on some of the jail rosters that an individual has what they call an ICE hold. In other words, judge,
if you release them, ICE is going to pick
don't
them
even
up.
bother releasing him or her on bail, because ICE is going to take him into custody anyway. So if somebody's facing state charges here in Utah and they have an ICE hold, that means they're not going to be released to the street. They'll just be released to a different arresting body, if you will. And they may be taken even into a different facility, but they're not going to be out on the streets.
Wow.
It's disappointing, but when you see that, having a bail hearing is sort of meaningless.
So was he released on bail or not on bail?
So the judge actually released him without bail, which tells me what that means is he doesn't have to post bail.
Right.
The judge must have found that he was a low flight risk or something. I mean, there were some conditions, which was that he was ordered to seek employment and maintain full-time employment.
Which he had before he was deported, right?
He was a construction worker.
Yeah.
So he had to stay in the jurisdiction. He was limited to travel within that state. I think it was the state of Tennessee, was it? I forget. But anyway, he was ordered to stay within that state and continue working there in the state, stay in touch with his attorneys and whatnot. And usually what they would do, I didn't see this in the order, is they would have an individual like him surrender his passport. Now, he may not have even had a passport, but if it was you or I or someone in our family that had similar charges, they would say, surrender your passport. So you can't leave. Right.
Can't leave the country.
Because if somebody leaves the state of Utah, no matter where they go, the states in the United States all have extradition agreements, so they'll extradite you. They'll bring you back. But if you fly to certain countries that don't have extradition agreements with the United States, you can hide out. You can stay there as long as you want, and the United States can't get you back. But if you don't have a passport, that's really, really hard to do.
Right. So I'm looking at a news article that says he's still in jail until at least Friday, so the federal judge can decide whether prosecutors have the power to keep him from being deported immediately, right while this all unfolds.
Because that's the problem right now. And the Supreme Court has weighed in a little bit, Holly, and has given the administration the right to do some of these quicker, more expedited deportations. And that was the whole problem that Trump ran on and very successfully ran on, was that immigration and naturalization and immigration courts were so backlogged that you'd have somebody who was here illegally, you would take them into custody, charge them with being in the country illegally, and then release them on bail and schedule a trial for 2 years from now. Or you know what I mean? And so the individual, they wouldn't even show up for trial. Well, so what? Then they have new charges. Well, they're already facing charges. And I'm that wasn't the case always, but it was the case often enough that I think the administration and even law enforcement became frustrated with immigration process taking so long. And it was a backlog. It was a due process issue. So it's like, hey, we have to treat everybody fairly, and everybody's entitled to a trial and to a hearing. And when 5,000 people are requesting a hearing, and in within 2 or 3 states, that backlogs the system. So the administration has really streamlined that, and the courts have let them do that, in part because if you think about it, and people have argued this all the time, just being here in the country being here in the country without proper documentation is illegal. So they don't have to wait and prove you committed an act of domestic violence, you committed a violent crime, you committed some other crime that makes you immediately deportable. You're kind of deportable if you're not here legally in the first place. And so they would streamline the process and get people out. So I don't know what's going to happen with him, but he's not getting out of jail anytime soon. And the judge, like you say, is going to have a hearing tomorrow to decide what best to do for him, whether to release him to ICE and say, put him on another airplane, maybe.
Doesn't that seem to just run counter to the argument that he needs to come back and have the ability to face go through a due process?
And I think what they're saying is, you just had it. You did come. You had a hearing. You know what I mean?
Okay. I'm not an attorney, but that does not make sense to me, right? So they're charging him with things he has never been charged with before. He was pulled over in Tennessee, I think like 11 years ago on a traffic violation, didn't even get a citation. And now they're saying, okay, well, we're looking back 11 years and we're going to charge you with human trafficking. I mean, doesn't he have an opportunity to address those charges?
He may, and he may not. If he gets deported, he won't even have to face them. And even that case, if you look at the facts of the case, it's a little bit weak because one of the star witnesses for the government was in custody, learned of Abrego's situation and said, oh, by the way, I was in that car and we were hauling people around that shouldn't have been here. We were human trafficking. I'd like to testify against him.
Well, one of the things I saw a little bit earlier this week was the judge listening to the charges against Abrego Garcia said it verges on physically impossible to do what you're saying he did, that he was driving like 120 hours a week. I think there's only 168 hours total in the entire week, right? Like it's almost physically impossible to do this.
He was hauling people from state to state, and he was taking
with no sleep and no food and no bathroom breaks and
120 hours a week of shuttling people around. So that crime obviously would have been fairly significant. I was wondering, and I was looking it up, you have statute of limitations issues too.
Oh yeah.
It's not like you can just charge a crime whenever. But I think he was right under the gun when the attorney general decided to charge him. Those are serious crimes. But again, if he gets deported again because he's here illegally, after now having a hearing and after now seeing a judge and having a judge say, "Hey, let's do this," the administration is trying to streamline that. So this is a case that will be up at the Supreme Court again. They've already heard it once, but the only thing they said, the Supreme Court of the United States addressed his case once for the limited purpose of deciding what to do about his presence in El Salvador. And they said the government is to facilitate his release back.
Right. And I remember, the government said, we can't do that, we can't do that, we can't do that. And then they decided that they actually could, and they brought him back and they issued these new charges.
And if you recall, the El Salvadoran president came to the United States and said,
I can't do that.
Not only you can't do that, but I'm not going to let you do that. He's in my custody right now, and you don't get to tell me what to do. Of course, I'm sure a phone call cleared that up pretty easily.
Right.
But it was only a matter of time. And the irony of this one, of course, is that he's deported to the only country where he faces potential violence.
Right.
And a judge has specifically ordered, do not deport him to El Salvador. And that was the order of the judge, which happened to be the only place he was deported to. So we talked, I don't know, was it this week or last week? We talked about the fact that they were deporting people to what they called third countries.
Yeah. That was earlier this week.
Yeah, you could deport somebody to another
Sudan,
country.
South Sudan.
Right, yeah.
Djibouti.
You might wish you were in the El Salvador prison again after that. Who knows? I mean, we'll keep an eye on this case, and we'll keep our audience posted on what happens with that. That's something that we're going to follow in the courts very closely. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk about a study involving whether you should buy new or used when you purchase a home. We'll be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour is breaking news. Spanish Fork police have just let us know that a 62-year-old woman hit by a car this morning has now died at the hospital. This happened on Spanish Fork Parkway and SR 51. We're told a driver was making a left turn when they hit the woman. The driver did stay on the scene and has been cooperating with police as they investigate. The name of the woman has not been released. We are waiting to get a new briefing from firefighters on the Cedar Hills fire that started last evening and threatened about 150 homes.
This fire was very, very scary for us. It was close to being a catastrophic event.
American Fork Fire Rescue Battalion Chief Brandon Beauchard says they are working to make sure the fire doesn't flare back up and move back down the mountainside. Officials believe it was caused by fireworks. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, there is still a lot of question as to how much of Iran's nuclear materials were damaged in the U.S. strikes over the weekend. The Trump administration is standing by its assessment that the 3 sites that were targeted were totally destroyed, and the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency has said that the centrifuges at Fordo nuclear facility have suffered a great deal. But it's unclear if Iranian officials were able to move uranium and other materials off-site ahead of the strikes. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 300 points now. That's 0.7%. We're at 43,291. Coming up, the temperatures return to the 90s, and we'll stay there for a while. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Hi, this is Jason.
And Kathy of Window World.
Mom, it almost happened again.
What almost happened, Jason?
A customer almost didn't choose us because he was shocked our prices were so low.
Oh, no. What did you tell him?
I told him I could charge him more if he wanted me to, or he could spend the savings on something awesome.
Oh, that's amazing. What did he say?
He decided to save thousands of dollars and get a whole house of amazing windows with Window World.
Call 281-8111.
Window World.
Simply the best.
And as Doug always said,
that's no baloney.
Hey, summer's here and only getting hotter. Better save now on a new day and night heat pump and air conditioning system.
Keep cool with a new day and night heat pump and air conditioning system surpassing the new federal standards. It's easy, eco-friendly, and affordable. For example, select a low-interest financing plan on approved systems and combine that with tax credits of up to $2,000. Go to dayandnightcomfort.com for a day and night elite dealer near you. The difference is day and night.
Transform your old, outdated kitchen with Half Price Granite. For a limited time, Half Price Granite is offering special pricing for a summer sale, starting at $20 per square foot installed. That's lower than most big box stores. These prices are some of the lowest around. Granite, quartz, marble, and quartzite, all starting at $20 per square foot installed. Call 801-486-1700 or visit halfpricegranite.com. Half Price Granite, affordable luxury.
Let's get another look at emergency traffic and weather together. Brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Back to you, Heather.
Well, the big delays are on I-80 in Summit County. It is westbound. You're going to hit stop traffic just after you get on from Kimball Junction. Trying to get over the point of the mountain, it's due to a crash at Jeremy Ranch. It was blocking 2 right lanes of the freeway. They just opened one of the lanes, so now just 1 right lane is closed, but you still have the backups in that area. And then we have a closure of Mountain View Corridor. This is northbound at 90th South and West Jordan. All the through lanes are blocked due to a crash, but you'll have to turn either right or left at that intersection. Jordan Valley Water says we're using about 12% more water than last year, even though we don't need to. Do your part, water 1 day less each week. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're warming back up to the mid-90s today. We'll stay there through Sunday and then pop up to 99 on Monday. Right now it's 77 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
People who are trying to buy a home in Utah realize that home prices in Utah are still creating a huge barrier for a lot of families. And a new study that's come out says this: if you want to buy a new home, it's going to cost you more than an existing home. And the last segment I said a used home because I was thinking of cars. You buy new and used, new home and existing home.
Pre-loved.
Yes, right. There you go. Here's KSL News Radio's Adam Small.
If you want a brand new home in the Salt Lake area, you're going to be paying about $551,000, which is about $10,000 more expensive than the average existing home. That's according to a study done by Inspired Closets, a home storage company. But where new homes are really going to hit you is in your monthly payment. Analysts say the average mortgage payment on a new home in the Salt Lake area is more than $2,800 a month, nearly $1,100 more than the average payment on an existing home. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
So those numbers are actually interesting to me. I would say math is not my strong suit, although I did have to pass some math classes. But how can you have a $10,000 difference in a new versus an existing home, but have over $1,000, or $1,700 difference in that monthly payment?
You can't. There's something wrong with that.
That math doesn't math.
It's not Adam's fault. I was a math major my first year of college, and it doesn't make sense unless the only way that could make sense is this, and I don't know that this would be really possible if an existing home, if financing an existing home requires a greater interest rate, or maybe a somewhat different down payment or something like that, but. Well, it wouldn't make sense otherwise.
So I want to have a discussion with you about new versus existing homes, but I do want to see if we have any listeners that want to text us at 57500 to weigh in on whether they wish they would have bought a new home over existing, or if they have regrets one way or the other. So I'll just tell you, my husband and I have purchased 4 homes over the almost 40 years that we've been married. We've been in the one that we currently live in for over 20 years. And they have all been existing homes. In fact, the 4th home we purchased is actually older than our very first home that we purchased. It was built in the mid-'70s, and it was added on to a couple of times before we bought it. But I've never purchased new.
So we did once. We purchased a new home, and I would say good and bad about it. One thing, it's new. I mean, nobody's been in it. There's no holes in the walls to
new
clean
house
up.
Smell.
Right, that new house smell. But boy, there's nothing there with a new home. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like you don't have any sort of lived-in feel at all. But what struck me the most about a new home over an existing home, at least the one that I bought, once you walked out the doors, there was one tree. There was not a blade of grass.
Yeah.
There was
no landscaping.
Nothing. And so you're starting from scratch in a lot of ways. And of course, in new homes, the basement is typically just
Not
framed
finished.
on a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
day, if nothing
Yeah.
else. So it's fun. I don't even buy new cars. You know what I mean?
Right.
I wouldn't buy new. I just don't. Our current home was an existing home when we bought it. It was a foreclosure home, so it was
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
a mess. But you play with it, you have fun with it. You know, and
Right.
and I can see. When we just quoted Adam when we heard that thing, he said a new home averages $551,000, which is $10,000 more than an existing home. As a percentage, it's not very much. 551 versus 541.
Right.
You know what I mean? Thousand.
Right.
So I don't even know if maybe new homes are in a little bit nicer areas, or you know what I mean. I don't know that number really means a lot. I mean, a home is a home, and although I would say this, and I'm digressing a little bit. There's some homes for sale in our area where we live, and there are regions where the houses were built in the 2000s,
Yeah,
and some where they
sure.
were built in the 2020s.
Yeah.
And there's a price break there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They have the newer
Yeah.
flooring, the newer countertops, or whatever. But if you got the 20-year-old house,
The newer fiber optic
right? Yeah,
cable.
you get dinged a little bit.
Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder how this plays into building. So we have two kids who have purchased new homes, brand new, in the last couple of years. They purchased them as their starter home, which I mean, it's kind of a stretch to say they're starter homes. But I've talked to my husband about, would you ever want to build, right? Would you ever want to build a home that fits, our retirement years? And we have a son in a wheelchair. It needs to be wheelchair accessible. And he said, I've always heard from his friends who have built homes, you build your first one to find out what mistakes you're going to make, and then you build your second one to stay in. And we don't want to build two homes,
No.
right? Like, even where do you place your plugs and stuff? So I don't know if you've heard that or not, but that's one of the things that keeps us from purchasing a new home.
I'll tell you, as an attorney and having dealt with, and I'm a judge part-time for what's called small claims court,
Oh, wow.
and it seems like there's a lot of litigation over, do you want to build your home? You know what I mean? Like,
oh, that's scary.
And people do want their own little. Well, I want the bathroom here. I want the sink just exactly here. Builders must hate that. I think they like the spec homes. Let's just build a beautiful palace, and somebody will buy it. I think building, and I'm speaking from both the buyer and the builder, is not the best idea. Of course, you can get what you want.
Right.
You can send somebody your plans. But if I was building a home, I would do the plans, give it to the architect and the builder, and go to California for a couple of months and come back and hope that it's where you want it to be. I mean, it's just fraught with peril when you're building a home, because who can plan everything that's going to happen with a home?
Right.
Even the way that your yard is graded and how close you are
Right.
to the neighbor's house and things like that.
Right.
So the best laid plans. I mean, just buy an existing house that's pretty, and I think you're in better shape.
Yeah. We actually do have a text that came in, and they're smarter than us on math, because this texter says the difference in the payment amount might be because builders are buying interest rates down for buyers, which of course would make a difference. People are buying new construction, might have a larger down payment also because they just sold a home, which would of course make the overall loan amount smaller, making their payment smaller. So
that's a little bit similar to what I said about interest rates and buying that down. Sure, that makes sense,
Yeah.
and I can completely understand that. Bankrate also did a study about Americans talking about, what do you need, or how are you going to be
to feel comfortable.
To feel comfortable, and this includes being able to purchase a home. And a quarter of Americans said this, Holly, that they think you need to make $150,000 a year to feel comfortable.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier this week, and very
that's
close,
right.
very close to half said they needed to make at least six figures, right? And I have a son in his mid-20s, and he's like, I'm afraid to even get married until I'm making six figures, and I'm like, honey, like, I don't know that you need to wait that long, but he's really uncertain, and I think he joins with the majority of Americans who are like, I feel financially insecure right now.
Yeah, understandably so. We talked about this too, but Utah, the cost of living, although home prices here are way high. I mean, I think they're second in the country when you take into cost of living.
Right.
So home prices here in Utah are really high, and I was surprised at what Adam Small said at the beginning. A brand new home in Utah, average price $551,000. I mean, I've never bought a house for $551,000.
Well, if you are in your 20s, and I think we've seen this too, data wise, the the first home purchases are happening at older and older ages. So my husband was 29 and I was 26, I think, when we bought our first home. We're 25. Anyway, somewhere around there. We paid $77,000, but this was 1990, and so our interest rate was in the teens, actually, so it was 16 or 17%, right? But now kids are getting, the young adults that are purchasing homes, they're purchasing them later and later, and they're in their 30s now when they're purchasing their first home.
And unfortunately, living with mom and dad, so they can save up the money.
This is true.
You're probably.
I have 5 adult children living with me right now.
There you go. Right. We have none. Sometimes I wish we had some. Let's stay on this topic a little bit because sometimes the dream of home ownership can feel like a lost dream for a lot of young people. But Ogden City, Holly, has a new program to help with down payments, closing costs, and help for people that want to live within the city. Ogden City will be on the line with us after this.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. I'm Professor Scott Hammond. I hope she's not listening, but I once heard a divisional leader announce in a corporate meeting that she was outraged and would no longer share information with a colleague. She expected us to do everything we could to make that person fail. The media tells us that outrage is an appropriate reaction to the misbehavior of others. Marketers leverage outrage to get you to buy something you don't need. Managers use outrage to get you to do something you shouldn't do. The media uses it to gain a wider audience because they know through experience and research that you're more likely to believe the worst than the best. But outrage triggers the body's stress response, releasing cortisol and adrenaline. Over time, it can contribute to issues such as anxiety, depression, and high blood pressure, and is contagious. There is never a time when outrage is appropriate. Learn more about how to build collaboration in an MBA program at Utah State. Go to utahstatemba.com. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you in one of our classes.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. We still have just over 2 miles of nearly stopped traffic westbound I-80 between Kimball Junction and Jeremy Ranch due to a crash that's now blocking the right lane, although 2 right lanes had been blocked earlier. And Mountain View Corridor is shut down. It's closed northbound at 90th South. People are being diverted to go either east or west onto 90th due to a crash. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPaveUtah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
My car is making this noise. Sometimes it's like doot doot, and sometimes it's like grrr.
Do you have a dash light on?
Oh yeah.
Then we don't have to listen for clues. With the free Fix Finder service, we can read a check engine, ABS, or maintenance light to find the likely fix and even recommend a local shop if you need one.
So you don't need to hear the grrr.
Not with Fix Finder. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
The wait is almost over. After 2 years of renovation, the perfect downtown lunch spot is now almost open. The Garden Restaurant opens on June 30th. The Garden Restaurant offers a beautifully designed space and deliciously fresh menu. It's close to everything downtown next to the Temple Square block. If you need something quick and on the go, or to meet a client, friend, or place to relax, the Garden Restaurant offers healthy options like handcrafted sandwiches, soups, unique salads, plus traditional favorites like homemade pot pies and the famous Lion House rolls. The Garden's new look and tasty menu offer something for everyone, featuring dine-in, patio seating, lobby seating, and grab-and-go or quick online ordering. Visit the Garden today. Reimagine space with remarkable taste. Easy street access on the ground floor of the Joseph Smith Memorial Building. Open weekdays 11 to 3. Check out the menu at thegardenslc.com. Fresh flavors, iconic location. The Garden Restaurant, opening next week, June 30th. See you there.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Inside Sources.
I think one of the biggest parts of the American dream is the dream of home ownership, and it's something, Holly, that you and I have both taught our children, that our parents taught us about, that you get a home, it's your most important investment.
Right.
And it's something that you just were expected to do. I mean, I purchased my first home in 1982. It was like $48,000.
Yeah.
Interest rates were kind of bad. It was like 12%
Right. Yeah.
or something. But we thought we died and gone to heaven. And it was a wonderful thing. It was a beautiful house. But you think, what would that cost today? Significantly more, obviously, but we talked in the last break that average new home in Utah is $551,000. I mean, even inflation hasn't gone up that high, and wages certainly haven't gone up enough to make that difference,
That's right.
to make up that difference.
That's right.
But Ogden City has a new program to help young first-time buyers, to assist with down payments and closing costs for people buying in Ogden and owning a home in Ogden. They have a loan program to assist home buyers with a down payment and closing costs and purchasing a home citywide. We have Jeremy Smith, Ogden City Community Development Director. I probably butchered the format here, Jeremy, but what can you tell us about the program?
Yeah, happy to talk about this. We're talking about a down payment assistance program that Ogden City's actually been doing since the late 80s. Since 1988.
Wow.
I think we were the first one to offer this in the state, and it's been offering down payment assistance to eligible homeowners for a long time now. So it's been very successful. We do about 50 per year. It's changed over time. It always hasn't been that much, but it's been one that we've been able to offer and help homeowners get into homes for a long time.
So, Jeremy, I'm looking at some of the details with the program, and it's actually super interesting and super exciting. I mean, we know that Utah has a housing affordability problem, and one of the first things that I see is, you can either buy an existing home or a new construction home, and it's not just for first-time home buyers, actually. It's for any applicant.
That's right. So with this program, we have several programs at the city that we're doing to try and help with home ownership, and one is a down payment assistance program. Those are funded by through a federal program that you have to be eligible. So that has income restrictions on it for that down payment assistance program, but it can be anywhere in the city, and as long as you are meeting the thresholds that HUD has outlined for us, that anyone can apply for those.
So you talked a couple of times and used the word eligible, and I know that maybe all of the numbers aren't there right in front of you, but what makes a person eligible?
Yeah, so it's primarily based on their income. So what the HUD requires is that they're under 80% of the median income for the area. And so for an example, for that, if you had a family of 4, you would have to make under about $96,000 per year.
Okay.
That's combined income. So that gives you an idea. And we have information on our website that breaks down like a table that shows it would line up with whatever your household dynamic is, and that will give you an idea. But our program's all set up to help guide people through the process. So if they wanted to apply to it and they were interested in that, we help them navigate some of those things that might seem a little complicated with HUD and their requirements.
Right. I'm sorry, I cut you off. You talk about household, 4 people in the house, maximum gross income $96,000. Is that the combined income of the both?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a household income.
Yes.
And that qualifies a party of four for this program, $96,000 or less of combined income.
That's right. And we get new numbers every year. Those are given to us from the government, from HUD, and that adjusts. They do a survey on how incomes increase over the year and try and accommodate for those changes.
So one of the things that I can see too about your program, is you actually have a couple of categories where you're trying to make it easier, for example, for police officers or teachers or Ogden City employees. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So these loans, they're for a typical citizen or someone that's buying a home. $10,000 is the typical down payment assistance they receive. However, we do have additional incentives if you're a teacher teaching in Ogden City boundaries, that they can get up to $15,000 worth of down payment assistance. That also, same amount can go for Ogden City employees that are moving, relocating to Ogden City. And then $20,000 is available to police and firefighters.
You know, I think that makes sense to me to see if you get your city employees, your police and fire, and your teachers who are teaching all within the city, but if they can't afford to live in the city, right? This sounds to me like a great program to get them to come live where they work.
Yeah, that's exactly the idea behind it. We really want to encourage those who are serving our communities to stay here and be part of it. So when they're working here, we also would love to have them living there because they add such a great contribution to the city all around.
So this $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 assistance with the down payment, is that Jeremy, a separate loan?
It is a loan, but it's not traditional that you make monthly payments on it. It's a deferred loan, so you actually don't do anything with it until you sell the home.
Wow.
So something like that. Yeah, it's zero interest. It doesn't increase over time. It's just you pay it back once you decide to sell the home.
That's genius. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. So it's there. I wouldn't use the word lien, but anyway, it's on your house. It's $10,000, and when you sell it, the first 10 comes off, and it repays the city for the
down
assistance
payment
that you got. What a great idea.
I remember when I was a first-time home buyer, the hardest thing for us was trying to come up with the down payment, right? Because it's like we can make the monthly payment, but trying to come up with this big chunk, that was really hard for us.
And we knew that, and I think the lenders knew that if you were getting it from mom and dad, there was a repayment plan. But this is really smart, Jeremy, because the lender knows that even though it's owed, it's not going to affect the buyer's ability to make payments because it's not something they have to pay back immediately.
Yeah, that's right, and that's really the intent of it. We know how hard it is for people to buy homes now, so anything we can do, we have to be creative. And this is something that we've been offering for a long time, but it's, like you said, just so difficult to come up with enough money to even qualify to buy a home, especially when you're meeting these thresholds of income. You really, anything you can get will help. So we're happy about it. We love that the proceeds, they actually, once they pay those off, we roll those back in the program, and that money becomes available for others.
So can people apply right now?
Yes.
Is this a rolling program?
Our program, we have new funding that starts July 1st. So those funds will be available. We'll start taking applications then. And so they're welcome to start.
So next week.
For next week, yeah.
So is your program, Jeremy, for Ogden City proper? Is that where you're looking to get people to purchase homes in that area?
Correct. That is one of the requirements they have to live within the city, or the home has to be within the city boundaries. Just Ogden City, we're not talking north or south or some of our other surrounding communities in the county.
And given that, Ogden's a little like Salt Lake or Provo, where there's not a lot of areas to continue building. This does apply to existing homes. It doesn't necessarily have to be something new.
Yes, that's right. So this is really available for Ogden City just because we are unique in that we don't have much land left to build on. So we have very few new homes coming in. These homes are generally targeted and primarily used on existing homes. The nice thing that we have in Ogden is we have a much lower, I guess, median sales price than you'll see in some of the surrounding areas. And that's just because our homes generally are smaller on smaller lots, kind of follows the request that the governor is trying to put out there to make happen. We did it 100 years ago. So it's
we only have like a minute left, maybe a little less, and maybe I'll put you on the spot. But are other cities around the state doing this? Because like Greg said, I think this is genius.
I'm not as familiar with the other cities. I don't know that that's happening up north here other than what the state has been doing. As far as some of our surrounding communities, I think Ogden's the only one actively doing this in Weber County. As far as in some of the other counties, I'm unaware of other programs like this.
And finally, Jeremy, where do our listeners and potential home buyers go to find more information about your program?
Yeah, so the easiest way to remember it is we have a website called ogdencityhomes.com. That will get you to the spot that has a link for this program. So just go there and click on the down payment assistance button, and it will take you where you want to go to find out more.
That was Jeremy Smith, Ogden City Community Development Director. That sounds like a great program, and I am surprised, just to follow up with your last question, Holly, that we don't do that more.
It's
a $10,000 buyer assistance program. It's on your house. When you sell it, pay it back. In the meantime, it's a zero-interest down payment loan.
Yeah. Trump's tax bill has been dealt a major blow as several Medicaid provisions have been axed, which is going to really cause some conversation. We'll talk about that after the break.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. The Utah Department of Health and Human Services has confirmed 2 more measles cases in the state, which means we now have a total of 5. One of the new cases is a child and the other is an adult. The state health department is working to identify people that might have been exposed. We'll take a news conference live at 11 a.m. with more information. Firefighters in Cedar Hills just sent out an update on the fire that broke out last evening, saying the fire essentially stayed within the fire lines overnight. We're told investigators think the fire was started by fireworks, and it threatened as many as 150 homes at one point. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: drugs to treat ADHD may have some unexpected benefits.
ADHD medications are linked to fewer accidents, injuries, and risky behaviors, as reported in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Some details from this large study out of Sweden: 250,000 people. Risk of self-harm as much as 23% lower when people are on ADHD medication. Traffic crashes dropped as much as 29%. The risk of committing a crime fell by up to 27% during medicated periods. This does not prove cause and effect, but it does add to evidence these treatments offer real benefits. Wayne Cabot, ABC News.
Your money at this moment: the Dow up 346 points to 43,328. Coming up, if you love temperatures in the mid-90s, you're going to love this weekend. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
At Intermountain Health, we believe life is a circle. May yours surround you with insight, a healthy perspective, trust, and reassurance. The belief that our differences aren't that different, and compassion just when you need it most. Life is a circle. May yours help you live the healthiest life possible. Intermountain Health.
Your electric bill is going to be higher for summer, but not if you get new windows from Advanced Window Products. State-of-the-art double-pane windows and insulated frames, any style, any color, from a company that's been building them right here in Salt Lake City for 39 years. Not only are you buying local, but you're cutting out the middleman because they're the factory. You save 30, even 40% on your new windows, and you get a lifetime guarantee from a trusted local company. If there's a problem 5 years from now, they come right over and get things straight. And right now, you can save even more. If you call Advanced Windows for a quote, they'll give you an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Advanced Windows offers buy now, pay later. They have 60-month 0% financing. They always work out affordable payments, plus $2,500 off. So get your new windows for summer. Make the call now, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or you can go to advancedwindows.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Jane has 150,000 miles on her truck, and she's proud of that. Jane's secret? AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help her find the right parts. Jane's brother Josh only cares that his car starts and goes, but when it doesn't, he also goes to AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help with free services. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Emergency traffic on KSL News Radio, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Heather Kelly?
Well, the delays are easing a bit on westbound I-80 up in Summit County. We still had a crash blocking the right lane and shoulder, but 2 right lanes had been blocked. So now that you've got 2 left lanes open, traffic's getting up toward the summit of Parley's Canyon from Park City much better. You still have the closure of Mountain View Corridor northbound at 90th South. No one can get through the intersection to continue north on Mountain View, but you'll have to turn eastbound or westbound onto 90th. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we're going to be on repeat for the next 4 days. High of 94 today, 95 tomorrow, 94 Saturday, 95 Sunday. Then on Monday, it gets even hotter, a high of 99. Right now, it's partly cloudy and 81 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So we've been talking the whole time we've been doing the show, which is coming up on 3 weeks now.
3 weeks, yes.
We've been talking about the one big beautiful bill that passed the House by 1 vote. It's been over on the Senate side, and they're trying to work on how they can get this over the finish line by July 4th. And the Senate parliamentarian has the job of looking at the bill overall. There are some rules that apply to this bill that say if it's not kept to the reconciliation on budget in this way, then it's subject to a 60 vote threshold rather than a 50 vote threshold.
Okay.
So the Senate parliamentarian has been looking at the bill and polling things out. And one of the things that she ruled this morning was there is a chunk of the Medicaid cuts that Republicans had put in the bill that she said cannot be in this bill.
Okay, so how does that apply to the 60 vote thing then? She makes that ruling that says, wait a minute, we can't put this in the bill.
That's right.
And she just does that unilaterally.
Yeah, so it actually is literally her role to decide. And this is a nonpartisan thing, but it's her role to decide. They call it the Byrd Rule, BYRD, after Senator Byrd. But it's to talk about how do you keep this bill on track for what it's actually supposed to do. And so we've seen several other things stripped out. The energy portion where we're talking about Mike Lee and the land, that is, I mean, a lot of it is stripped out. They're trying to put stuff back in that has been changed to pass this rule. But really what it means is the Republicans do not have 60 votes in the House. They know they don't have 60 votes, right? They can pass with a simple majority, but they can't pass with 60. And so anything that's going to require the 60 vote threshold just totally torpedoes the bill. But what this does by taking out this section of Medicaid, cutting Medicaid, that was how they were hoping to pay for the $4.5 trillion in tax cuts that are in the bill.
Right, and the Republicans don't have 60 votes in the Senate. There's no way they're going to get there, and Democrats aren't going to give them any love.
No.
And this is something, I'm surprised we haven't dealt with this earlier, Holly, because Medicaid cuts were one of the biggest issues when a lot of our congressional and Senate representatives were going out to their communities and talking and saying, hey, we got this, and people are like, what about Medicaid? What are you doing? I mean, people were really upset in ways that I wouldn't have expected.
And we had some dumb comments, right, about, well, everybody's going to die.
We're all going to die, right? Yeah, don't say that. I mean, on the one hand, I can see the administration and others saying maybe too many people are on Medicaid. Maybe maybe we should change the qualifications, make it a little more difficult, make it a little more, encouraging people to get back to work. And I'm just playing devil's advocate here a little bit. But some of the things they had written into that bill really made it so that it would have been very difficult for some people to stay on Medicaid who probably, in the overall picture, Holly, had every reason to expect that they could continue on that for a while.
Right. I mean, again, they can deal with this in a separate bill, right? They can come back and revisit it. They can reshape it. They can try for the 60 votes, which I don't think is going to happen. But they can look at different ways of addressing Medicaid and Medicare, right? That's still on the table as well. They can look at that in a different way. But the Byrd rule specifically prevents these extraneous provisions from being included in reconciliation legislation. It's really the process of passing a budget bill.
And speaking to C-SPAN, Utah Representative Blake Moore responded to this ruling right after it was issued.
If you're talking a provider tax, that's primarily revenue-based, and that should pass the Byrd rule in the Senate, so the parliamentarian should be. So I hope there isn't any type of, politics being played here. The provider tax is a tough issue, and we got our point to a really good sweet spot. The Senate was, pushing to explore more. I think there's a broad consensus to support rural hospitals as much as possible. If that doesn't survive the parliamentarian procedure over there, it becomes a non-issue. It's taken off the table, but we'll have to see, and I'll have to take a look at the details on that since the news is being reported to me now.
Holly, he uses the phrase provider tax.
Yeah.
That's something I'm not familiar with.
So that's one of the things that changed when I went over to the Senate side. So the provider tax actually is a tax that impacts hospitals. And so that's one of the reasons he was talking about. We're trying to take care of rural hospitals. So it was trying to reduce the tax from the current 6% down to 3.5%, which sounds like a good thing, except that it comes from hospitals then that have to make up that difference. So taxes are placed by the states on medical providers like hospitals and clinics, and then they try to get reimbursement from the federal government. And so what they're saying is you would get less of that. And there were people, in fact, there were at least 4 Republican senators, and there's no way they can lose 4 Republicans, who said this will decimate rural health care in my state, and I will not support this bill if it's still in there, and now it's not in there.
And there were a lot of Republicans, even in the House after the bill was passed, who said, wait a minute, had I recognized that's exactly what it said, I may not have voted that way. So where do we go, and what's the solution?
Well, so it's not clear, right? And
that was an unfair question.
No,
by the way.
I mean, but one of the things that has to happen, right, is can they draft something else to put back in to offset this money that they were counting on, right? So we already know it's raising the deficit. We already know it's increasing the national debt, right? This would make both of those worse. And so can they do that by July 4th, which is next Friday? I personally, I think it's nearly impossible, although President Trump has said we're going to keep everybody in town. Nobody gets to go home for vacation until you give a one big beautiful bill on my desk for me to sign. But this process takes a while. It takes a while to craft legislation. And so now that, like Congressman Moore just said, if the parliamentarian says it's out, it's really off the table. And so then they have to come back to the table and say, okay, what can we put back together?
How and why doesn't the Senate the Senate, and even if it goes back to House, make the one big beautiful bill into 2 or 3 sort of pretty bills? You know what I mean?
Right. There's a really common saying, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, right?
Right.
And what you're suggesting is the normal way of passing legislation, although the federal Congress still is gridlocked in a lot of ways. But typically that is what happens, is they will pass they haven't passed a budget bill in a long time. They do reconciliation and they pass continuing resolutions to fund the government. But they can separate those out, and usually that is what happens. But Donald Trump, when he campaigned, said, I want this one big package. I want all my policy changes in one big, beautiful bill, which is why we call it that. And I want it on my desk by July 4th.
But ultimately, it's not his call.
Ultimately, it's not his call.
If the Senate and the House want to break this up, I guess it's going to get broken up. Right now, it seems to still be an all or nothing package. The Senate was sort of, I guess, told by Trump, hey, I'd like to get this done by July 4th. That's 8 days away. I mean, it's getting closer.
And that is a holiday, right? And you got a weekend.
And we got a weekend in between. So it may not, but that's not a hard date by any means. I mean,
it's really not. And if you remember when we started talking about when this one big beautiful bill hit the Senate side, even Utah Senator John Curtis said this is more of a suggestion than a hard and fast rule. And we asked a previous guest, what is this impact if they miss this deadline? And they basically said nothing. There's no real strong impact on this. When you start to run out of money, I think it's at the end of the summer, then they can separate out a continuing resolution to fund the government and not let the government shut down. But basically, these policy things they can talk about them for several more months if they need to.
Yeah, they really could. But I mean, I assume the Senate's going to want some sort of drop dead by the end of summer, or at least get it back to the House.
They're hoping
that version, and the House is going to have to toss it around a little bit too.
They will.
Let's go local. Let's talk about something that's near and dear to one of our representatives here in Utah. We're going to have House Speaker Mike Schultz with us to talk about some federal lands and the way that we manage roads. We'll be right back.
Well, here we are. It's officially moving season, a time filled with hours of packing, unpacking, and so much bubble wrap. But the first thing you should do when moving into your new home is make sure that the Wi-Fi is booming with Xfinity. It's super quick and easy to set up. Then, boom! You'll have your new home hooked up with the ultimate Wi-Fi experience faster than the time it takes to parallel park a moving truck. Then you'll be back online with the most reliable Wi-Fi with the best-in-class equipment from Xfinity, so you can just kick back, relax, and stream your favorite movies and TV shows while somebody else deals with those boxes. Because with Xfinity, the only thing you'll have to worry about is remembering where you packed the remote. Make the right and easy move with Xfinity. Learn more at xfinity.com/move. Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. Most reliable Wi-Fi claim based on Open Signal Awards USA Fixed Broadband Experience Report August 2024. Go to xfinity.com/move.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Jane has 150,000 miles on her truck, and she's proud of that. Jane's secret? AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help her find the right parts. Jane's brother Josh only cares that his car starts and goes, but when it doesn't, he also goes to AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help with free services. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
It's gonna be a hot one before you know it, and that means now is the time to get your lawn ready with an application of Revive Organic Soil Treatment. Revive takes every drop of water deep down to the roots, where your grass can use it. Use Revive in early summer. It's the protection your lawn needs to stay lush and green during the hot temperatures coming. With Revive, watering twice a week is like watering 4 times a week. You'll save water, you'll save money. Spread it, spray it, use Revive now. It works.
At Cadillac, we believe true luxury isn't just about craftsmanship, it's about innovation. That's why we created a luxury line of electric SUVs, including the best-selling Lyriq, the all-new Optic, and the Escalade IQ, the first fully electric full-sized SUV. You can travel over 400 miles on a single charge. So come get your dream car and see exactly why driving a Cadillac is like no other driving experience. Visit Jerry Seiner Cadillac and experience the Seiner difference today.
If you talk and they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
So, Greg, we have a Utah legislature here that meets 45 days at the beginning of the year and then do interim sessions. But they do have people who work a lot more than that. And one of those is the Speaker of the House, Mike Schultz. And he is on the line with us to talk to us today about a roadless rule that was just rescinded and actually will have some pretty significant impact in Utah.
Thanks for joining us, Speaker, and tell us, especially me, what a roadless rule means.
Well, hey, good morning, Greg and Holly. Thank you for having me on, and I really appreciate the opportunity. So, yeah, this is really big for management of our public lands here in the state of Utah. So the roadless rule was put into place. It was in the Clinton administration, so 20 plus years ago. And what it did is it stopped roads from being built and maintained into our public lands to deal with managing those public lands and fire management so that we could manage those lands properly and better. Now, it's important to know that those roads were put in, and they're not highways. They're very small roads, basically the size of four-wheeler trails pretty much, but it allows equipment to get back in there and thin the forest out and clear the underbrush and just really maintain the forest. And then when they're done doing that with the forest, then they go back in, they rehab those roads and plant them back into vegetation and habitat. And then, years later, 20, 30 years later, they may come in there and redo those roads and do the same thing. But it's just a way to get back in and manage the lands. Well, during the Clinton administration, the roadless law was put in place that stopped that from happening. And since then, the forests have not been managed in the way they should. And that's why you're seeing so many of the wildfires be as big as what they are and as frequent as what they are, not having that ability to manage it. So what it does is it opens it back up and allows, under those circumstances, those roads to be maintained or even built. But then again, you have to close them back off and rehab them and plant the habitat back in there. So it still stays primitive, and that's important to know that, this in some of this area it's wilderness and it's primitive area, but it's also important to manage those forests, and that's what this is all about.
So answer this question for me, Mr. Speaker. Does this have anything to do with RS 2477 roads?
No, completely separate issues.
Completely
separate issues. Yeah, and it's completely separate also with the travel management plans. So under the Biden administration, just last year, really within the last year and a half, the Biden administration come in and shut down a whole bunch of roads that were being used for recreational purposes. That's another separate issue. Again, these roads are only the roads that are used and built into our forest lands to help maintain the forest lands, and that's what this roadless rule is about. So what it does is just allows the Forest Service to go in and maintain those lands again, and really get back to where we're managing our forests and in a proper way, and that's what this is about. That's what we're excited about, and because one thing too, you think about how much that over vegetation, how much water that soaks up. So, we know that our streams do not produce as much water as they produced 10, 20, 30 years ago. Some of that is because we're not getting as much precipitation, but a lot of it is because we've stopped managing our forests. And the growth inside that is sucking up all the water as well. So this is a big deal. This is a big for forest management, and it's a big deal for public lands in the state of Utah.
When you say public lands, Speaker Schultz, are you talking about Forest Service and BLM lands?
Yeah, this is mostly Forest Service lands. That's mostly what this is about, wilderness lands. That's mostly what this is about, not necessarily BLM,
and
mostly Forest Service.
And it would provide that the Forest Service, not the state, would have better access to these roads and better ability to improve and maintain them.
Yes, it's all 100%. They're approved and accessed through the Forest Service and by the Forest Service. Yes, sir. Yep.
So can I ask you this?
The state, yeah.
That's what I'm wondering, the state interest in this.
Could petition the state, and that's there's a lot of neat discussions that's happening right now with the state of Utah and the Forest Service in taking over management of some of our campgrounds and some of our forest areas, and partnering and doing shared stewardship programs with our Forest Service. There's a lot of those discussions happening that we're really excited about as well. Some of that could expand into this roadless, the rescind of this roadless rule. But again, it all would have to be approved through the Forest Service.
So I just wanted to ask you, what does that look like, management? Does it look like cutting down trees? Is it just removing underbrush?
Yeah, so it could be a whole bunch of different things. Some of it is just removing underbrush. I would say the vast majority of it is thinning out some of the trees. So sometimes, the forests get too thick. And good management, you'll go in and you'll thin it out. It allows the grasses and understory and habitat for the wildlife to grow. And it also allows for new trees to start growing and still leaving some of the old trees there. Now, there is some circumstances when you get a beetle kill going in a certain area or wherever where, the beetle kill is going to get this. Maybe you want to go in there and clear cut it before the beetle kill gets there. And then when they used to do that, then they would go back in and replant the trees in those areas. And so there'll be some of that. But I would say the majority of it is used for thinning of the forest so that the fuel loads don't build up so heavy. And the wildfires, when the wildfires come, they're not as ferocious as what they've been over the last decade.
Right.
I want to shift gears, if I could, with you, Speaker Schultz. We've had some discussions, you and I personally, and just sort of generally recently about several of our state judges and some concerns that you've had and that the House may have with judges. Can you tell us if there's any update on the Southern Utah judge, the Moab judge, Torgerson, and if there's if relating the Judicial Conduct Commission deal with that, or maybe there's an update on that from your perspective?
That's a really good question, Greg, and I appreciate you asking that question. So I don't really have an update right now. KSL's reported on this. I think the what KSL's reported is accurate. The last meeting that I had a really good meeting that was really productive with Chief Justice Durant, and there are some concerns there, around some of the comments that's been made. I think most people look at that and have some concerns around those comments, and there's a few other things that you could add into that as well. That the whole situation is very concerning. My hope is that the judge chooses to
resign,
step down, resign, I think would be best. But I don't know. The justices, I think, and their conduct commission is going to look into it. I don't know that process. I don't know exactly where they're at in that process. We're going to look at it as well from a legislature standpoint, and over the next couple months, and go from there.
So, Mr. Speaker, we have talked about this on the show briefly, Greg and I, but could you just remind our listeners what the comments were that were so troublesome?
Wow. So
I can help you with that if you want.
We only have 30 seconds, so.
Right.
Yeah. So really quick, the judge watched a video of what this defendant had on his phone, and over 330 videos and pictures. Some of them were very graphic details of video of, let's say, a 6-year-old being bound and with duct tape and raped, and pretty gruesome acts. And the judge afterwards said that he's done defense work and he's seen worse, and kind of minimized it, or did minimize it. But then also when trying to decide on how the sentencing referred to the kids coming from privilege, or the guy had come from privilege, and being very well off, and so there were some comments around there, and then also the comments of the courts that they put out afterwards was not accurate as well, and so that there's several things that were troublesome there.
Thank you for reminding us of that. We've been speaking with Speaker Mike Schultz.
And, he's been wonderful to the program. He shows up, he talks to us a lot, and he works 365 days a year, even though the legislature's only in session for a percentage of that. When we come back, we may be going to a press conference. If not, we've got some other things to talk about. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Alexandria Bonilla. KSL's top story this hour. It's a developing story. Utah state health officials are expected to brief reporters at any moment now on an increase in diagnosed cases of the measles in the state. 2 more cases have been identified, bringing our total case count for the current outbreak to 5. Of the 5, health officials say 2 people are pregnant, 1 is a minor, and all of them are unvaccinated. As soon as that news conference begins, you'll hear it live on Inside Sources. And our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Supreme Court today has sided with a Texas death row inmate who insists that DNA evidence will clear his name.
Escolastica Cuellar Harrison was in her Brownsville, Texas home when she was robbed and murdered in 1998. 3 men were arrested, including Ruben Gutierrez, who would be tried and sentenced to death. He claims that genetic evidence would prove that he didn't kill the 85-year-old. Now the Supreme Court says he has the right to sue for DNA testing. The victim's nephew is Alex Perez.
Just him trying to keep his head above water just to stay alive. That's all it is.
Gutierrez has been spared from 3 scheduled executions. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Your money at this moment. The Dow is currently up 352 points. The S&P 500 is up 40 and the NASDAQ is up 143. Coming up, the heat is back today, and it's only going to get hotter. KSL traffic and weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys. And I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia, I got a tour of their headquarters, I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
Boo-hoo-hoo. Jason, why are you crying? I just saw a house with a "We Got New Windows" sign in their yard. Well, why does that make you cry? Because they spent twice as much as they needed to for high-quality windows.
Window World offers amazing windows for way less than the other guys.
And we don't play pricing games with phony discounts.
At Window World, we treat every customer like family.
Call Window World today at 281-8111 for a no-pressure, no-hassle quote.
Window World. Simply the best. And as Doug always said,
that's no baloney.
Hey, summer's here and only getting hotter. Better save now on a new day and night heat pump and air conditioning system.
Keep cool with a new day and night heat pump and air conditioning system surpassing the new federal standards. It's easy, eco-friendly, and affordable. For example, select a low-interest financing plan on approved systems and combine that with tax credits of up to $2,000. Go to dayandnightcomfort.com for a day and night elite dealer near you. The difference is day and night.
We're going to break to a press conference right now. The state epidemiologist is addressing the 2 new measles cases in Utah. We're going to join him live.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. So the information we want to share today is that we do have 2 additional cases. So that brings us up to 5 people in Utah who have been identified who are infected with measles. These 2 additional people that we identified recently, happily, are people that we knew were exposed and therefore are within that sort of contact area of the initial people who had been infected. So these 2 people were not unexpected. We knew they had been exposed and were at high risk. What is concerning to us is that we now have a number of people who have more severe disease. We have found that 2 of the people who are infected have had to go to the hospital and stay at least overnight. That is very concerning to us. We certainly want to have as minimal infections as we can here in Utah and as mild. So to know that 2 out of 5 people had to go to the hospital for their measles infections is quite concerning to us. In addition, we also did learn that 2 of these people are pregnant, and that brings up a very high concern because it is not just a risk to the mother, but it is a risk to the baby. We really want to get the message out that if anybody is considering becoming pregnant, that they go and check that they are vaccinated, and if they are not vaccinated, to get the vaccine, because it is a vaccine that can be given before pregnancy but not during pregnancy. And people who are pregnant, if they get measles, they're much more likely to get severe infections, much more likely to go to the hospital. And unfortunately, they're also much more likely to have premature birth or even lose the baby. So we certainly want to encourage people to take precautions to protect themselves and their unborn infants if they are thinking of getting pregnant. So with that brief update, I'm happy to answer any questions. We expect we will see additional cases. We know there were a number of people who were exposed to those initial people who had measles. A lot of them were family members or close contacts. Many of them are not protected by vaccines, so we expect a number of them will also become infected with measles. So we are in close contact with those individuals. We do expect additional infections because of that. We also do believe there are a number of infections in Utah that are undetected, so we think there will be additional people who are identified over the coming weeks.
And I guess at what point does the spread of this infection kind of become unusual, where people should really start to become concerned and worried about it?
Well, first I want to say that most Utahns are protected. So for 90% of Utahns, we are protected because we've gotten the vaccine. And so for most of us, there is not a need for significant concern. I do think the people who are unvaccinated, it is a time to start really talking to your doctor, talking and thinking about what the risks are to you and your family. I was just talking to somebody earlier about how stressful it is to be pregnant and how difficult it is to not know what's coming. To get that vaccine can take out one of those stresses for you. And I really would encourage people to consider doing that to protect themselves and also to not have to worry.
We're listening to a live press conference from Dr. Leisha Nolan, the state epidemiologist.
So certainly if you're vaccinated, you're exceptionally well protected, but nothing is 100%. I think that we can say that for everything in life. This vaccine is exceptionally good, but we know there can be people who get infected even after they've had the vaccine. Those people tend to have a much more mild infection. They don't have to go to the hospital. They get over it much more rapidly, and they don't pass it on to other people. So there is a slight worry that some people who are vaccinated could get exposed and infected, but they are much less likely and certainly much less likely to be significantly ill.
And those two people, I'm assuming, were they vaccinated or no?
No, so none of our 5 individuals here in Utah who've gotten measles, none of them have been vaccinated. So all unvaccinated individuals.
They're related, right?
We have at least 3 different clusters. We do know that at least 2 of the people got it from other people who we already knew were infected.
Also, 4th of July holiday is coming. What is your recommendation to families?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
4th of July is coming. A lot of people are going to celebrate in large groups. What is your recommendation?
Yeah, with the upcoming 4th of July holiday, or really any holiday, first we'd encourage, if you're sick, to stay home. Don't go over and expose other people. That's not just true for measles, it's for everything, right? So certainly, if you're going to go out in a crowd, we encourage you to try to get as much protection as you can. Certainly, vaccine's the best approach, but just to be aware of what other people's symptoms are and try to limit exposures.
Of the 10% of Utahns who haven't been vaccinated, are there any age groups where maybe that level of unvaccination is disproportionately higher, or any certain demographics?
Yeah, so certainly we are concerned about sort of people in many parts of our southwest of our state. There are areas that are much less vaccinated than other parts of our state. We do have data on our website that shows breakdowns by school throughout Utah, and you can see on there that there are some schools that have very low vaccine rates. So that makes us worried, both because that is a susceptible population, but once school gets back in, certainly if we get infections into those schools, it could spread very rapidly.
Are there any, sorry, go ahead. Are there any public places notably that people should know about where they were?
So at this time, the only public exposures we have identified are those 2 clinics that were identified earlier, actually late last week. At this time, we don't have additional exposure locations for the public.
What did we kind of learn from the COVID-19 pandemic? I think that's what a lot of people said. When you come in here, it reminds you of that. What have we learned that maybe can be applied today?
Yeah. Well, first, I think we should all recognize this is not the COVID pandemic. Most of us are protected, which is very different than what happened when we had a new unknown infection. This is an infection that's been around forever. So we are in a very different situation. I think it is useful to recognize that we have a great protection, whereas in the beginning of the COVID pandemic, we were all susceptible. Right now, we all have the protection that we could. The only people who don't have that protection are people who are under 1 year of age. So our little babies, they don't have the option to get that vaccine yet. Their immune systems aren't developed enough to benefit from the vaccine, so they need to wait till they're 1 year old to get it. Which means those are the people who are most susceptible in our society, and really we want to protect them, but to do that, it's best to surround them by protected adults. So having everybody vaccinated around a baby is the best way to protect a baby.
Is this a lifetime vaccination? As a kid, you're good?
Yeah, so the data shows that we are really well protected through our lives. Most of us have gotten the vaccine when we were 1 year old and then about 4 years old, and that gives us protection really throughout our lives. There is certainly, there was a change. At first, I think some of us older in the group only got 1 dose when we were really little. As time went on, we realized, yeah, it's good to get 2 doses, so with that 4-year-old dose was added on. We could realize we need another dose, but at this time it looks like it's a very good vaccine through life.
Regarding the minor who's been infected, I'm wondering if you could share their age, or at least a closer age range as to how old they are, and also what additional risks minors face when they are infected with measles compared to an adult.
Yeah. So actually, I'm not going to share additional information about their age, but it is someone who is a minor. We are specifically concerned about minors because we know the younger kids are more likely to be hospitalized. So that is a group we always are concerned about. Happily, I think this person is doing very well. In fact, I should say all of our individuals seem to be improving and are doing well. Those that were hospitalized were able to be released fairly quickly. But certainly we don't want our kids to get sick. We know that kids get hit hard by a lot of different infections, and measles is one of those.
That was state epidemiologist Dr. Leisha Nolan talking to us about the 2 latest cases, which we just learned about, which makes the total number of cases, Holly, in Utah right now up to 5. She did answer one question that I was dying to hear, and that is, those of us that got the vaccine, 60 years ago, do we need to go do something? And she seemed to indicate once you get it, you have it for life.
Right. Although Debbie Dujanovic, who joined us earlier, said there was a window in the late 60s that if you got it there, you should probably think about getting it again. But yeah, I mean, one of the things she said is that babies, you don't give the measles vaccine to children under 1. And there are additional risks for women who are pregnant when they get the measles. She mentioned the increased risk of miscarriage and of stillbirth, but there's also an increased risk for those babies to have hearing loss. If their mother has measles while they're pregnant, those babies could be born without additional health challenges except for hearing loss, and that can be significant.
Yeah, it's tragic that we're having this conversation. I also understand people being concerned about vaccines and people having misunderstandings, or maybe I'm misunderstood about vaccines. I must have. She said that we got it when we were 1 and 4, so that would have preceded the 60s for me. I mean, that would have, so maybe I'm in good shape.
Yeah, maybe you're fine.
Maybe I'll talk to my doctor and see if there's something else I need to do. And she really shut down the conversation about, hey, is this another COVID? She's like,
right.
No,
this
it's not another
like
COVID. Because she started going down the road, Holly, of avoiding groups and avoiding crowds, and I could see the people, or the whole the mood going. Wait a minute, are we going to shut down everything we're doing? We are not. It doesn't sound like we're going to do that. That was a very interesting and live report from our state epidemiologist. We're going to talk about energy and talk about what a couple of our state leaders have said about the future of energy in Utah when we come back.
It's Julie from the Cache Valley Visitors Bureau inviting you to come celebrate summer in Logan. From nonstop festivals to super close outdoor adventures to the most charming historic downtown and great restaurants, it's all right here. Let's just stop for 1 second. I don't know why everyone who lives in Salt Lake thinks it takes 3 hours to get to Logan, but unless you're dragging a handcart, it'll only take you 1 hour and 20 minutes, so just get in your car and get up here. You know we're Utah's heart of the arts. This week, live performances of Matilda the Musical, the professional Olyark Repertory Theater's inspiring musical Bright Star, plus they open Sherlock Holmes, the final adventure. Wait, the swashbuckling Broadway hit The Scarlet Pimpernel hits the stage too. Good night! Free concerts every weekday at noon in the Tabernacle and free concerts and movies at the Outdoor Plaza. Mark your calendars for the Cache Valley Cruise-In Classic Car Show 4th of July weekend and a packed schedule of nonstop fun all summer long. ExploreLogan.com. ExploreLogan.com.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to soda, just amazing.
I started on soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
Many people worry they're not making the right investment choices inside their 401ks. Did you know that you might have a little-known opportunity to add some additional investment choices to your 401k and get the help and recommendations you've been looking for? This exciting feature is called a self-directed brokerage window. And the best part? The money still stays within your 401k. Learn how the trusted advisors at Capital Wealth may be able to expand your investment portfolio. To learn more, call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Improving your 401k might mean the difference of retiring a few years earlier. Let's find out. Schedule your no-cost 15-minute consultation with the Capital Wealth team today. Call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Inside Sources.
Two prominent Utah politicians are addressing the future of energy in Utah and the future of energy nationally. On Wednesday, Utah Senator John Curtis emphasized Utah's leadership in making nuclear a practical and viable clean energy solution during the Environmental and Public Works Committee hearing and on the nomination of Usha Maria Turner to be the Assistant Administrator of the EPA for the Office of International and Tribal Affairs.
That has a long title,
right?
By the way.
Yeah, that's a lot going on. During that time, Curtis cited past challenges and the need for collaboration with the Nuclear Regulatory Committee and stressed the importance of regulatory certainty and clarity for innovators of utilities. At the same time, Utah Governor Cox is chairing the Western Governors Association until June of 2026, and his Energy Superabundance Initiative will be to push Congress to overhaul federal regulations that are obstacles to energy production. So that's a mouthful, but let's break that down.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've heard Senator Curtis say before is that not only does the West, and Utah specifically, do we have the opportunity to be energy independent, but we have the opportunity in this country to become energy dominant. And so one of the things, if you remember, while he was in the House, he really focused on energy for him and responsible stewardship in the environment, but he really was an all of the above energy guy, and he's the one that's been talking about we need to keep these credits to keep these renewable energy companies going in Utah. That's one of the things, but it includes nuclear energy. And so one of the things that's part of the conversation is this regulatory environment in Washington, D.C. So this is probably news to you, but about a decade ago, I worked in the Governor's Office of Energy Development, and at the time, they were talking then about, can we get nuclear to happen more frequently in Utah, right? It's a decade later, and we're still saying, well, there's regulatory burdens, right? So that's one of the issues that he's facing.
The nuclear industry, the nuclear energy industry has in the past been a little bit of its own worst enemy, and I believe caused some of these let's face it, overregulation or super-regulation, because we've had, the
3 Mile Island is what people think of, right?
And people are like, oh, we never want to have nuclear again. We have this waste, and it's a huge problem. But as we try so hard to drift away from fossil fuels, we've got to consider other sources. And nuclear seems to be a clean source. It certainly uses a fair amount of water for cooling purposes. But it's something that, and we've had some guests on this show before, can be done in a fairly confined environment. It doesn't take the number of acres that some of the other sources need.
It's not those great big smokestack looking things, right, that we have in our heads from before. So technology has increased dramatically, actually. And there are, as I understand it, some nuclear reactors now that don't even need these high level of waters, the high level of water that some of them have in the past. So we spoke about this before we started the show as a regular thing about this modular nuclear power, and I called it backpack nuclear, which it's not that small, but
right.
But one of the things too with nuclear is we have our lieutenant governor right now is overseas, and she's in Europe talking to European leaders about nuclear energy there, and they have been using nuclear power to fund their countries at varying levels. But for a long time, I think France is something like 80% powered by nuclear power.
Right, and we have had. I mean, Homer Simpson hasn't done us any favors either. I'm
right.
No,
you're true.
Right. Yeah,
no,
he's
it's true.
Carrying the hot nuclear thing in his pocket.
Right.
But it seems now, Holly, that the technology and the safety features that have come into place are so superior to what they were 20, 30, 40 years ago that I'm not saying nuclear is a necessity, but I think it's a necessity that we're having a conversation about it, and especially in a state like Utah.
Yeah, look, I'm convinced that it is a necessity. We're looking at an age of artificial intelligence, but also we really rely on data, digital, all that stuff. That takes a lot of energy, and it takes significantly more than we're getting right now from our energy sources. I think nuclear has shown itself to be clean, reliable, and safe. And I know that we have this image in our head of the mushroom cloud. That is not what nuclear energy looks like anymore.
Yeah, and we can only continue to burn coal at such a rate that it's either going to run out, or we're going to make our environment such that we can't.
Well, even the energy load, right? When we're talking about we've got to double our energy output so that we can maintain these big data centers, that's a lot of coal. I'm not sure we can keep up with that just with coal.
And is it any coincidence, Holly, that Governor Cox is speaking to the Western Governors Association saying, hey, we need to push Congress to overhaul federal regulations,
that's right.
obstacles to energy production. So it seems like we've got two of our most powerful Utahns going in the same direction from different roads, right?
Yep.
So this is something that Congress does have to deal with, and I think that the current administration is all on board with relaxing regulation. I think the new EPA secretary has talked about Trump administration's belief that energy doesn't have to come at the expense of your environment,
stewardship,
right. So I mean, this is something that's. And I don't know that there are other sources that we're working on quite as hard. I mean, certainly solar has been big. Wind, who knows where we go with that.
But I mean, I think, again, the all of the above energy policy says we're going to continue to use oil and gas. We're going to use solar. We're going to use wind. We're going to use geothermal. Utah is actually a great place for geothermal energy as well. Right. So we're going to be able to look at all of those. But I personally am of the belief that nuclear is part of that package. And I think we have seen in Utah, we've seen the governor, we've seen the legislature, now we're seeing Senator Curtis. There is a real drive to say we're going to actually focus on this because, it has become clean and much safer. And I think the concerns of people in the 1970s have really been addressed.
Yeah, and here's something that our senator talked about when he was talking to the Environmental and Public Works Committee.
I was really proud last Congress in the House to have my bill, the Advanced Nuclear Reactor Prize Act, become law as part of the ADVANCE Act. And that legislation was built on this simple premise that if we want to foster innovation and clean energy, we have to reward and support first movers, and that starts with certainty and clarity, and I think you referred to some of that. And I think for any emerging technology, especially advanced nuclear, the clear rules of the road are not just helpful, but really mandatory.
I think it's interesting
right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess my generation is like,
right?
You know, it's a scary
It's the
thing.
bomb, but it's not. That's not what we're talking about.
Right. You know, and my background before I went to law school was in mining and engineering, and that was my degree. And we were, you know, I have a degree in metallurgy, and you'd think we weren't talking about nuclear because we were so afraid. Now, it dominates the conversation, at least in terms of energy and the future of energy.
Yeah, it's super interesting, and I think with Senator Curtis, he talked about, you know, we want to reward the people who are out there trying to be the first movers. He said, but you have to think long term too. So if President Trump's administration relaxes some of this regulatory burden, right, that the nuclear industry is looking at right now, is that going to change when a new administration comes in? I think that speaks to we need to have Congress take action right this and say, look, things are different and we can move in a different direction and feel like we're safe, but we don't have to take 20 or 30 years to approve something new.
Here's what will change it all is if there is another 3 Mile Island. If we get to the point where we've relaxed things so much that there's another problem, we will set nuclear on its ears for 30 years. I don't see that happening. I think
I don't see that happening either.
I don't think regulatory rules will be dialed back so much that it becomes sort of a free-for-all or that it becomes dangerous.
We're not going to do atomic testing or nuclear testing down in the desert and have downwinders, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. We're not going back to that for sure.
And the nuclear industry doesn't want that to happen.
Correct.
So regulation or not,
right.
They're going to self-regulate and make sure that what they're doing is safe and that it's clean and that it becomes something that the rest of the country wants to pick up on. Like you say, Europe's already well ahead of us, and other parts of the world are looking at nuclear as something that helps drive the ship. So we'll see where that goes. Utah Governor Cox, Senator Curtis are both on board with this, and maybe Congress will jump on as well. It's almost lunchtime, and I don't know if you can hit the drive-thru after the show, but we're going to get some insight on how much fast food Americans really eat after the break.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. And it is developing news. The total number of measles cases in Utah has grown to 5. State health officials updated us just moments ago about the 2 additional cases they've identified. State epidemiologist Leisha Nolan says these new cases were not a surprise because health officials knew they had been exposed to the disease and were at a high risk.
What is concerning to us is that we now have a number of people who have more severe disease. We have found that 2 of the people who are infected have had to go to the hospital and stay at least overnight.
Nolan says they do expect to see more cases pop up as they know other unvaccinated individuals who were exposed. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled against Planned Parenthood over a law that blocked the organization from participating in the Medicaid program. More from ABC's Devin Dwyer.
A significant setback for Planned Parenthood, which draws more than 1/3 of its funding nationwide from government contracts, including reimbursements from Medicaid. This was a case that dates back to 2018 when the state of South Carolina excluded Planned Parenthood from their program.
The Supreme Court decision was 6-3. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 356 points. The S&P is up 44 points. And coming up, a high of 94 today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Your electric bill is going to be higher for summer, but not if you get new windows from Advanced Window Products. State-of-the-art double-pane windows and insulated frames, any style, any color, from a company that's been building them right here in Salt Lake City for 39 years. Not only are you buying local, but you're cutting out the middleman because they're the factory. You save 30, even 40% on your new windows, and you get a lifetime guarantee from a trusted local company. If there's a problem 5 years from now, they come right over and get things straight. And right now, you can save even more. If you call Advanced Windows for a quote, they'll give you an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Advanced Windows offers buy now, pay later. They have 60-month 0% financing. They always work out affordable payments, plus $2,500 off. So get your new windows for summer. Make the call now, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or you can go to advancedwindows.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. Jane has 150,000 miles on her truck, and she's proud of that. Jane's secret? AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help her find the right parts. Jane's brother Josh only cares that his car starts and goes, but when it doesn't, he also goes to AutoZone, where friendly AutoZoners help with free services. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Looking at pretty good traffic patterns right now across the Wasatch Front, but we do have a closure they're still working on. This is northbound at Mountain View Corridor. It's about 90th South. Looks like they've got most of the wreck pulled away at this point from the camera angle I can see, so that should probably be opening pretty soon. Also, there was a crash on the South Belt. This is I-215 as you're headed eastbound at State Street. Looks like they've gotten that cleared as well. The Good Feet store, supporting you with comfort no matter what the day brings. Find the location nearest you at goodfeet.com. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll see mostly sunny skies today with a high of 94. Highs stick around the mid-90s until Monday when we're back up near 100 degrees. Right now, 84 and partly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Did you know that a new report has come out that shows a third of adults eat fast food on a given day? We want to know from you what your favorite fast food place is, and we also want you to tell us, be honest, how often you grab fast food. If you want to answer those questions, text us at 57500 and let us know the answer to that. 1/3 of U.S. adults consume fast food on any given day. Fast food accounts for more of younger adults' calories compared to those above 60, and most fast food restaurants offer healthier options than they have in the past. I noticed that they have their salads or whatever.
Healthier.
Right? Yes. Right. Where do you go?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. So we actually really love Costa Vida. If we're gonna go someplace like that, my kids still love McDonald's, but I'm not a fan.
I eat fast food more than I should, in part because once in a while, if I'm running late or I'm driving somewhere, I'm embarrassed because I fashion myself some sort of a fitness person, but I'll drive through. You have to drive through once in a while. And
are you eating like a third of your days? Even do you eat one in every 3 days fast food?
No, I don't eat that much, but I do once a week probably, or pretty close. Maybe once every 10 days, I'll drive through fast food, and my favorite is right outside our window.
Oh.
Crown Burgers.
Yeah.
I love Crown Burgers. However, when I talk about I have to drive and eat at the same time, Crown Burger is not the thing you want to be when you're wearing a white shirt and tie.
That's right, unless you have a total apron.
Right.
So I have a funny story about Crown Burger. So my husband and I, when we were dating, it was the day he ended up proposing, and I didn't know this yet. So we actually go to Crown Burger for lunch, and we're sitting there, and we're all googly-eyed, right, because we're dating and we're young. And he pulls out a packet and tries to salt his fries. And what it really was a packet of Holly sugar. So it had my name on it, and he sugared his fries, not even realizing. So Crown Burger is like, we have sentimental feelings for that. So
yeah, my wife is celiac, and so she's
that makes it
gluten-free,
hard, yeah.
obviously. So we have to be careful. When your spouse is celiac, so are you.
Right.
You have to do what they do.
Right.
But I find that most of your fast food places now can accommodate virtually every source of eating issues and things, and you can always get a salad.
It's one of the things I really like about Costa Vida because, as I understand, the owner of the Costa Vida franchise is also celiac, and so they are very careful. And if you tell them you want gluten-free, like they'll change their gloves and they're really careful not to cross-contaminate as much as possible. And so that's one of the reasons we love them. I would say I only eat out maybe once a month at a fast food place, so it's not that often for me. But I'm looking at the study, and it's so. It's kind of sad for kids, actually. So the consumption rate daily has dropped to 30%, just over 30% of kids eating fast food daily. Oh my gosh, that seems like a lot. But from 2015 to 2018, it was 36.3% of kids, young kids, were eating fast food every single day.
When I was a kid, my favorite fast food place, and I think there are still a few of them around, not very many, was Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
And the reason I loved Arctic Circle is because when you ordered fries, you could get this sort of pinkish tinted stuff you could stick your fries in, which I thought, this is the greatest thing in the world.
Greatest thing
why doesn't
ever.
Why doesn't everybody make this? And now you can.
We love fry sauce.
Fry sauce, yeah.
That's
which
right.
I realized from a buddy of mine that was running Arctic Circle is sort of just mix some ketchup and mayonnaise and you're on your way. Maybe that's not the exact recipe, but I think that's what he was doing. Now, I mean, I ask for fry sauce. When you go to a restaurant, you want to have
or
fry
you make
sauce.
your own even, yeah.
Yeah, right. Or you're trying to make your own. I used to love going to Arctic Circle. I think there are still some. I see ads for them once in a while, but they're a little bit few and far between. And then we've sort of evolved here in Utah where you had, was it Hardee's, or we had different ones that became something else.
Yeah, that's right.
And so they're all over the place. I shouldn't go to them. But when I'm driving and it's lunch and I've got Court in Logan or Provo or something, I could just grab something, eat it in the car, and hope that I'm not wearing it when I get to the Court.
Right. So one of the issues, right, that people talk about with eating fast food is the health considerations. So that we know fast food typically, not always, is more highly processed, higher calories, fat, salt, sugar. And, so yes, you can get a salad. I think it can be a little harder to get even healthy there. So I can sometimes get salads, but I don't love the dressing. Or they add enough toppings where it's like, okay, you just bumped the calorie count up because now we have these, glazed pecans or whatever on the top, which are sugared.
Okay, so we have a couple texts, and one of them asks a question that I was going to ask you. And that is Costa Vida fast food?
Well, if I can drive through, it's fast food. So you can
they do
sit
have a drive-through?
They do have a
Okay.
drive-through. At least some locations do. So you can sit down inside, or you can take it in your car.
Chipotle?
Well, I think same thing, right?
Okay,
you can eat it in your car.
So another one of our listeners says, I eat out 1 to 2 times a week. My favorite place to go is Costa Vida and Zhao Asian Cafe. I've seen some of those. I didn't know. I guess they do have a drive-through.
They're good. Yeah, they're really good.
And another one of our texters said, I go to McDonald's 4 times a week.
Yeah.
I think that's what our president does.
Yeah.
He doesn't drive through, I'm sure, but he enjoys that. I have to say, there's nothing quite like a McDonald's hamburger, though. I mean, I just like them. and I remember watching the movie Founder or something about the guy that founded
Ray Kroc.
Right, how that whole industry got started and where it is. And now it's huge. I mean, there's not a freeway exit that you go to now
That's right.
that doesn't have a little sign that says these fast food places are here.
And you can joke about the vanilla shake ice cream thing being broken, but it's sometimes that's funny. So I'll tell you this. So I don't typically eat at McDonald's in the United States, but I have traveled internationally, and I was able to eat at a McDonald's in Moscow shortly after it opened. And I will tell you, that was like gourmet, it felt like at the time. It tasted amazing to have American type food in Moscow. And this was a place where people wanted to work. Like the line to be hired for this was shortly after the fall of the Iron Curtain, actually. And so it was a double-decker, like two-story thing, and people wanted to work there because the wages were really good for Russia at the time. This would have been early 1990s. Anyway, McDonald's in Russia was amazing.
Yeah, and another one of our listeners said Costa Vida is great. I'm surprised Costa Vida's got three votes, and I didn't even ever think of it as fast food. Another one says I enjoy McDonald's McDouble and McNuggets. I mean, everything starts with a Mc with McDonald's.
Of course.
I was looking at some stats about just the amount of calories that people consume are related to fast food. So adults consume 11.7% of their calories daily are from fast food. Now, of course, that's brought out over a week.
Right.
Younger adults, those ages 20 to 39, get 15% of their calories from fast food, and just under 12% of those in the 40 to 59 group.
Mm-hmm.
And then my group, the Geezer group, 6%.
That's my group too.
6% of 60 and older get their calories from fast food. We have another listener who says, I eat out maybe once a month. That's good.
Yeah, it's interesting. So my parents are older. They're in their 80s, and they live in Florida, but they go out almost every day, and they're Taco Bell fans. So they don't eat it as takeout. They eat they go in and eat inside.
I was going to say,
they eat there every day.
Yeah, when we talk about the Crown Burgers or some of the other restaurants like Costa Vida and stuff,
Yeah.
I don't think of them as fast food because I don't drive through. I go in, you still order at the table.
That's
and you
right.
put it on a little tray and go sit down and lather on the fry sauce. But they're not fast food for me. They're just convenient food that's yummy and you can get it and run
And
with
it doesn't take you an hour to eat lunch, right?
Yeah.
So
a lot of fun talking about fast foods, and a lot of our listeners enjoy fast food. I don't feel guilty when people look at me and go, why do you go to McDonald's? Why do you go to the Crown Burgers? Because it's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, every once in a while, just a burger, it's the greatest thing in the world. When we come back, we're going to get a few more of your calls and comments about what you think about fast food. Don't be shy, 57500. We're also going to get an update about something that you brought to my attention yesterday, Holly. You were driving home and you sent me a picture of a fire near your house.
That's right.
We've got at least 3 going on in Utah right now. We're going to give our listeners an update on that and Holly's facts of the day.
Woohoo!
Stay with us.
Over 3/4 of Americans suffer with foot pain every day. But Foot Solutions in Orem is here to give back your quality of life. Meet Patty.
I'm Patty from Saratoga Springs. I'm 74 years old. I just one day felt like I had a really bad stone bruise on the bottom of my foot, so I actually went to the doctor, and he goes, "You've got a severe case of plantar fasciitis." I'm really an active person. I work outside a lot in my yard. I like to kayak, and it was slowing me down from being able to launch my kayak. I could hardly get to the bathroom in the morning. The pain was so stabbing and bad.
What made the difference for Patty?
I discovered Foot Solutions in Orem. I was talking to a friend that I knew had plantar fasciitis, and she said, "Have you tried Foot Solutions?" I went there and got some great orthotics and some cute supportive shoes. Then in about a month, the pain was almost completely gone. Talk about relief.
You deserve a life free of foot pain. Just search for Foot Solutions in Orem and find out more at footsolutions.com.
You really ought to go there. It's a good place.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
When you take your grandkids to Disney, do they know what's in your investment portfolio? Do they even care? They're busy having a great time, and you're busy making memories. At Galileo Wealth Management, we understand the nuts and bolts of retirement planning, our investments, the stock market, taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and more. But think about it. What are you trying to do here? Is your goal to beat the S&P? Or is your goal to make memories with your family? Our goal is to give you the confidence to spend in retirement without the fear of running out of money. Call Todd Kim at Galileo Wealth Management today, 801-516-3227. That's 801-516-3227, or go online to GalileoWealth.com. Let Todd Kim and Galileo Wealth Management help you make memories, not just money.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. With highly trained technicians, Aztec Auto Glass has proudly offered Utah residents quality auto glass repair and replacement services for years. Serving Salt Lake County and nearby areas, they're known for reliability, expertise, and outstanding customer service. Director of Operations Rudy Villanueva joins us with more.
Aztec Auto Glass has proudly been in business for 15 years, building a reputation for fast, reliable, and high-quality auto glass services. Known for our commitment to excellence, we specialize in all types of glass, including custom laminated to specialty glass like tempered. Over the years, we've built lasting relationships with government agencies, businesses with fleet vehicles, and individual clients. Whether it's a quick repair or a complex installation, we ensure every job is completed with precision and efficiency. Our team's dedication to fast service, exceptional craftsmanship, and customer satisfaction has made us the go-to choice for all auto glass needs. At Aztec Auto Glass, we take pride in offering solutions that are both reliable and affordable, maintaining the highest standards of quality while serving the unique needs of every client. Come visit us at 734 West, 1355 South in Salt Lake City.
With fast mobile service and expert care, Aztec Auto Glass makes it simple to get back on the road. Learn more about their services at saltlakeCityAutoglass.org. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Celebrate the red, white, and beautiful during the 4th of July sale at Scandinavian Designs Furniture with up to 50% off. Visit the showrooms in Ogden or Murray or shop online at ScandinavianDesigns.com.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
The new Inside Sources.
So y'all texting us a lot here during the break, and we're getting all these fast food places. I just got to read them real quickly before we get to some other things here. Wendy's gets a couple of votes. Culver's Fish, don't remember that one, but I remember there was this greatest fish and chips place, like Skipper's or something.
I remember
love
Skipper's.
fish and chips. may still be around. I haven't seen one. Burger King, somebody likes the Triple Whopper. Taco Bell, and this is the great. I have to leave with this one. This woman says, I love Wendy's. We used to go twice a week. Then my husband and I lost our jobs, and we stopped going. I lost 10 pounds just from stopping to eat fast food. I don't know whether that's across the board. Everybody would do that, but I wonder if we'd all lose a little weight. But let's talk about some other things going on right now. We have no less than 4 active fires throughout the state, Holly, from you sent me a picture yesterday on your way home.
Yeah.
A fire in your backyard almost.
Yeah,
it looked
basically.
like.
Yeah. So there was a fire in Cedar Hills up on the mountain. It started from fireworks in a backyard, and then it's quickly just like jumped the fence and went up the mountain. And we were coming home. I had taken some grandkids to a museum at Thanksgiving Point, and my son was like, "Hey, do you see that smoke?" And it was
where's Cedar Hills?
So Cedar Hills is just barely north of Pleasant Grove, where I live in Utah County, and it's it's really right next to the entrance of American Fork Canyon. So there's that whole area that just goes straight up the mountain, and that's where the fire jumped a backyard and up the mountain. So one of the things that we noted there, like we could watch the planes come over and drop the fire retardant, and there were helicopters, and people jumped on it right away. At this point, it seems to be under control. There's a perimeter. They're watching it really carefully. It was hazy this morning, but it wasn't the billowing smoke like I saw yesterday.
And that one seems to be mostly contained, 25 acres, which is a lot, but certainly a lot less than what we're talking about with some of these others. We've followed, I think, all week long this Forsyth fire down in Washington County. It has grown every day.
Yeah.
It's up to 9,665 acres. It's been 0% containment until today.
Now it's 5.
It's up to 5%. 734 people on call for that one, and it's in Pine Valley, Utah, north of St. George, basically straight line between St. George and Cedar City.
Lightning
caused. Started by lightning, and that one we don't have an update, but there were something like 15, 20 homes that were evacuated or destroyed up there.
There were 13 homes that were destroyed, and the whole area is still, I think, evacuated. But we were able to talk earlier this week about why the homes why more were not burned, and they had already created fire perimeters around most of these homes, and so that was one of the things that saved them.
Yeah, that's one that, I mean, pray for rain or something,
Right.
Did something
Change
to
in
break that
wind,
one up,
yeah.
because that one just continues to grow. There's another one down in the Dixie National Forest area, which is close by, France Canyon Fire, and that one is huge. And that's the one that it hasn't got as much attention, Holly, because it doesn't involve dwellings
That's
and
right.
homes.
Yep.
But the acreage there, 27,000.
Yeah, almost 28. Yeah.
And it's only contained to the point of 15%. They've got 860 people on that one. That Dixie National Forest, I'm assuming that's also close to the Washington County area. But,
Yeah,
I
pretty
mean,
close.
that one's got to be just, I don't even know how, now you manage 2,800 acres of fire.
Well, I think you let it burn.
Right.
Right. I mean, and that speaks to what Speaker Schultz was saying earlier, is you've got to have some ability to control this.
And then there's one that you found that a lot of people aren't familiar with, which was the Bridge Creek Fire.
Right.
2,300 acres. That's in the southeast part of the state, more toward King County, right?
Right. It's on the border, really close to the border between Utah and Arizona, and it's 0% contained. It's been burning since the 13th of June. At least that's when they discovered it, and it's almost 2,300 acres.
So if you look at the personnel alone that are on these fires, Forsyth, 700, France Canyon, almost 900. Those are just two of the four that we've talked about, and that's 1,600 firefighters, 1,600 people working on that. I mean, that's a lot of people, and we've got two other fires going that probably have another 1,000, you would expect, working on those. I mean, where are these people coming from?
I don't know if there's that many, but still, there's a lot, right? I mean, yesterday, so I could see fire trucks. I have a friend who lived in the neighborhood just south of the Cedar Hills fire. She said the 100 homes that were on the road right next to where the fire was, they had it completely blocked off. It was all emergency personnel, fire trucks, firefighters, ambulance, police, right? And then we had the air support. So it was like all hands on deck right away.
And that's for obvious reasons, because that's
close to the homes. It started in a backyard.
So they may have had 100 or so people
Yeah,
working
I bet
on
they
that
did
one,
100,
and
yeah.
just like, hey, we need to put a stop to this.
Yeah.
That one seems to be contained, though.
It does.
What you're
So
telling
thank
us.
goodness.
Yeah, that's,
Watch out for fireworks season.
that's
And it's
frightening.
still not legal.
Yeah, oh yeah, fireworks. We did talk about that yesterday. Just remember, fireworks are on sale starting 10 days before the 4th, which was 2 days ago, but you can't use them
Until July 2nd.
2 days before the 4th, and then 2 days after. So buy them.
But don't
look
set
at
them
them
off,
look
and
at 'em.
don't light your neighborhood on
Right,
fire.
and don't store them in your bedroom, and don't light them off. Wait until, and then remember this: fireworks 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. except on the 4th itself, and then I think it
Midnight.
went until midnight. Yeah,
Not 1 or 2 in the morning.
You
midnight.
remembered that really
Yep.
well. Okay, so as we're
Okay.
wrapping up, let's talk about where we are today.
Well, there's some fun facts today. So, again, I do the Utah Policy newsletter. If anybody wants to sign up for it, it's utahpolicy.com. There's a big subscription bar on it. But so there's a couple of things today. Today's National Work From Home Day, which we can't do anymore, right? I guess we could phone it in. But it's Watermelon Seed Spitting Week. So did you ever spit watermelon seeds as a kid? Did you ever have contests, see how far you could spit?
No, but
Oh, my goodness.
I've never liked watermelon.
Oh, okay.
I don't dislike it, but it's just not my favorite food.
Well,
probably because of the seeds. 'Cause
Maybe.
it drove me nuts.
Well,
But
I was just going to say, we buy seedless watermelon now.
I know.
Right? So nothing to spit.
Yeah, there you go.
Nothing
Watermelon
to spit.
spitting day.
We did that with family reunions and stuff too. So it's also National Canoe Day. And I came across this article in the New York Times earlier this week. It was super interesting. And so when I told you about it, I thought it was pretty funny. You can explain why to our listeners maybe. But the title of the article is "A Better Way to Get Around in the Amazon, Solar-Powered Canoes." And you did not realize I was talking about the river.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the best way to get to some service from Amazon is to order solar. They're delivering all these solar powered canoes in their Amazon trucks. But you're saying,
Yeah, so
travel the
it's really
river.
interesting. It's like they have created these solar panels to look like a lid on the top of these canoes, right, or these ferries, and they just could go up and down the Amazon. And I think what a smart use of a different source of power, right?
Speaking of which, last year for my birthday, you'll think this is weird, and you're learning things about me all the time. My
Same.
wife bought me a bicycle sort of powered kayak.
Oh, wow.
And I take it out on the lake, and it's like a bicycle, but you can play around on the lake, you can drop a fishing line in, you can do whatever, and tour, and it's just like riding your bike. That
is a great leg
workout. It is the
workout.
greatest thing in the world, and it's got a little steering thing you do, and I probably look like a geek riding around on my bicycle-powered kayak, but I love doing it. It's a blast.
So one of the things this New York Times article is talking about with these solar power canoes is they make it's much, much quicker, as you can imagine, to go down a river than to go overland a lot of times. And so they've actually been using them since 2017 in the Amazon. They can carry about 20 people, so they're not very big, but they have taken children to school. They've taken sick people to clinics, which can really be an issue if you're out in the wilderness. And they've even carried mourners to a funeral. So, maybe we could see them on some of our reservoirs, solar-powered canoes.
Given the size and weight of batteries, I think that's a limiting factor. I mean, I have an electric car, and they go through tires. I mean, they're really fast because they're so heavy. So you'd think a canoe, you got to be really careful with the weight.
They figured it out.
And
right, they figured
20
it out.
people and a solar-powered battery on a canoe.
So it's also National Chocolate Pudding Day, in case that's a thing. So I don't know, you can go into your canoe and eat your chocolate pudding while you spit watermelon seeds.
While you spit watermelon seeds at the same time. Yeah.
Look, so one of the things, just back to the fire really briefly, we've talked all week about fire safety and fireworks and these fires down south, and now I have one basically in my backyard. If you ever need to evacuate for a fire or you can't get back in because they've blocked your road and they said no access, right? You have to be prepared for that before it actually happens. And I think that's one of the things people really need to pay attention to. Whether you have a 72-hour kit or you have, put your important documents someplace beside your house or you're using the cloud to store your favorite photos, that's a thing I think that unfortunately too many people don't do. And we had a house fire 20 years ago this year, actually, and it was really, really awful. But we were able to save our computers that had our pictures on them, but the cloud didn't exist at the time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we could have lost so much. Luckily, no lives were lost, but it was really traumatic. And since then, I've really been on we've really got to be careful. How do we preserve things?
Yeah. Very interesting. And be careful if you live near a fire zone or an open area where there's a chance of that. This is the fire season, and it's only going to get worse. Midday with Maria Chaleos is up next with the latest developments on the state's 5 confirmed measles cases. Stay with us.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL